Huh? What the hell? Safandra was spooked at the sudden change of scenery and nearly attacked Ning. Calm down, we're here, Ning said and let go of her leg. Safandra slowly drifted back to the ground and looked around before finally seeing the bright ship in the distance. That's our ship? She asked. Yes, Ning said. So this is the abandoned ship we saw just how? Safandra asked as she looked around the massive boat that was surprisingly in a stable condition. If left alone, it could probably go on for another few years with no problem. How did we get here? She asked. What do you mean? I teleported us here, Ning said. You can do that? Safandra was surprised. Of course, Ning said. Oh right, you haven't seen me do that before. Yeah. Safandra looked back to check the distance between their two ships. I'm surprised how far you can teleport. That was instantaneous too. That's nothing, Ning said proudly. I can go around the world with this skill. It's honestly awesome. Safandra's eyes narrowed. Only by yourself, right? You can't take anyone else along. No, I can take anyone, Ning said simply. But it has to have some downside if you take some other people with you, right? It doesn't just let you take just about anyone, Safandra asked. No, the skill is based on the distance of what is being transferred, not the weight, so whether I go alone or take someone else, it requires the same amount of energy, Ning said. Really? Safandra asked. Of course, Ning said. Just then, Safandra's face started to get red as Ning saw rage build up in her. What is G? You could teleport US anywhere, at any time, and you chose to let US take a ship ride? Safandra asked angrily. Hell, you could have taken US out of those village area in a second and yet we had to walk around for 3 days. But this is a new planet we're on. Don't you want to go on an adventure? See the sceneries, visit different places, Ning said. We could have just teleported there, Safandra said. Ning shook his head. Journey before destination, my friend. You will miss half the fun if you just skip around to places, he said. Now come on, let's go check this ship out. Safandra harumphed, but reluctantly followed him onto the ship. Ning walked around on the deck that was shown bright in the moonlight and he could vaguely see the outline of stuff there. Well, it does seem lifeless, Safandra said, although you might want to use some beasts to sense if it's totally lifeless or not. Beasts? Ning thought to the snake that could sense the different life in the forest and wondered if he should summon it. However, the snake was too large for that. We will be fine without any summon. Let's just check it like normal people would, Ning said. What do you think happened to the crew? Safandra asked. I don't know. Maybe they died and this is a haunted ship now. Ning said. Ooh, what if the spirit of the dead are going to come after us soon? He turned around to see the scared look on Safandra's face, but she didn't have any. Seriously? Am I supposed to get scared by spirits? Me? She asked. Right, Ning said and turned around to continue looking for any sign of life, even if it was just the bones of the people that died. After walking through the top of the deck, Ning went underneath the deck and it was completely dark. Oh god, this place stinks, Safandra said as she closed her nose. Ning thought he could handle, but he was forced to do the same. What is up with this place? It smells of nothing but alcohol, she said. Maybe they were a group of people that liked to party a lot, Ning said. Careful, don't step on that hole in the wood, it looks weak. What hole? I can't see anything, Safandra said. Wait, let me bring out some light, Ning said, brought out a bunch spiritual pearls that were full. He handed some over to Saf and they used it to see the path forward. They walked along the hall underneath the deck and still there was no sign of fight. What do you think happened here really? A party gone wrong? Maybe a summon killed them? Safandra asked. Well, I did overhear some people talking about humans mysteriously disappearing in the other part of the world. Maybe this was a victim to that? Ning said. Are you serious? Safandra asked. Yeah, it's quite a big news around most important places. I heard some quests in the circle that was about finding these people, Ning said. Did you take any? She asked. It was above my rank, Ning said. On that thought, I should upgrade my rank on the next location. Why do you think those people disappeared? She asked. I don't know, I could. Ning trailed off as he noticed something on the wall. Weird, he said. That light cage is open. Light cage? Safandra turned her pearl towards the wall and saw the metal cage, where the pearls were stored to shine light, was wide open. That one is open too, Ning said, and that one too. He quickly found all of the light cages were empty. Why would people who disappear need pearls? Safandra asked. Oh, I don't think that's the case anymore, Ning said as she quietly looked around. He opened the doors around the room but there were no people there either. What do you mean? She asked. Missing people, lightless vessel in the sea, headed straightly towards a ship in the night. What do you think I mean? Ning asked. You mean? Safandra's eyes narrowed as she looked around her as well. Yes, Ning said. I think these people are hiding somewhere on the boat, ready to loot the ship when the opportunity comes. Safandra's eyes glowed. Pirates. No way there are pirates, right? Safandra asked. If they're here then they should have heard us already and come for us. That's true, Ning said. You did shout quite loudly back then. If they didn't hear us then they must be quite a bit further away, or in a place with a lot of noise. What place has a lot of noise? Safandra asked. What place is furthest away from us? Ning asked. The back of the ship. Safandra asked. Yes, Ning said and immediately ran in the opposite direction. When he reached the back of the deck, he started furiously opening doors throughout the underdeck. When he finally reached the end of the ship and opened the final door, it led to a massive room that was unfortunately empty. Well, I guess my guesses aren't entirely correct today, Ning said. Let's check, Safandra said and immediately threw the pearl into the large room. The pearl flew through the door, into the room, and suddenly hung in midair. What are you doing? Ning asked. Safandra smiled. I am doing nothing, she said. Suddenly, Ning felt moving through the floorboard beneath him and realized that someone was moving toward him. He took a step back and suddenly a massive saber swung in front of his face, nearly hitting him. Surprisingly, the saber was only visible once it was out of the room and not while inside. Ning's vision changed as in a sea of black and blue, he saw human-shaped figures that were green, yellow, and orange. Ah, I should have known. They're invisible, Ning said. Kill them. A voice shouted from inside the room and suddenly people started charging toward them. The moment they left the room, their invisibility wore off and the two of them saw the pirates. Long, scruffy hair, unkempt beard, faces that looked like they hadn't seen water for days, and clothes that were worse than all of those three combined. Swords and sabers struck at the two, but Ning simply stood in front of the pirates and took all the hits without taking any damage. Should I deal with them or do you want to work on your frustration so I don't have to get scolded once we go back? Ning asked. You aren't getting out of it either way, Safandra said, but I will like to deal with them. Sure, Ning said and walked away. The pirates that were attacking him were already surprised at how strong he was. So many sword slashes fell on him and yet not a single one was able to draw blood. He's a summoner, a really strong one. Be careful, someone shouted. Take his girl, he can't attack us then, another person shouted. Ning looked at the rowdy bunch and then at Safandra and smiled. Don't kill them, Ning said. Why not? Safandra asked. Just then a person swung a sword at her. Safandra moved her hands and the door swung open to slam directly onto the man's face. The man's nose was broken and bleeding, and it looked like the man was unconscious after that single hit. However, Safandra's eyes weren't on that man, but instead on Ning, waiting for an answer. I mean, they haven't done anything to us, so, Ning said. They're trying to kill us, Safandra said. Trying, Ning said. You know they can't do it. Do you really feel right killing a bunch of weaklings when we can just get them arrested? You killed many weaklings yourself, Safandra said. Why are you suddenly a saint now? What do you mean? Ning's eyes narrowed in a serious look. A floorboard below Safandra broke open and splinters of it were sprayed onto the pirates. Everyone that was in the front was stabbed in different places by those splinters. They all cried out in pain, but Ning ignored them and looked at Safandra. What do you mean? He asked again. Back in Genesis, you killed so many people that were just trying to survive. They were 1,000,000 times better than these low lives that were going to kill and steal from us in a few hours. And yet you killed so many of them, Safandra said. That is different, Ning said. This is not Genesis. How is that different? Safandra asked while making a small group of people kneel on the ground and grovel in pain. I was forced to do what I did there. I'm not proud of it, Ning said. Most of those people were just trying to survive and their blood is on my hand. But that was something that was out of choice for me at the time. It was do or die, in a sense, Ning said. But this is different, it's simply do as there is no chance we die here. That's why I don't want to kill, Ning said. I'm not saying we need to let them go. I'm not trying to be a saint here. I'm just someone trying to not get his and his friends' hands bloodier than it needs to be. Safandra stayed quiet for a second and attacked the men without looking at them. Ning looked at her and asked, "Were the third round to continue and you were going to be pit against me, would you have killed me?" Safandra stared at him. "Yes," she said. "What about now? If you are angry at me now, will you kill me?" he asked. "Of course not," Safandra said. "I'm not a bloodthirsty monster." "Exactly, so maybe don't kill them just because you want to," Ning said. "Besides," he looked at the group of pirates. "We don't really know what exactly they have done. For all we know, they're just people trying to feed their family and they attacked us simply because they felt threatened." "Fine," Safandra said and gestured her hands. In a single instant, Ning heard every single pirate in the hallway collapse to the ground. Then, there was silence all around them. "They're unconscious now," she said. "Great," Ning said. "I'll grab some rope and we can turn them into the ship guards." After tying up the unconscious pirates, Ning and Safandra decided to wait for the ship to get close to their ship before getting off. "What about the beast that made them invisible?" Ning asked. "Is it gone?" "Someone here most likely just summoned the beast's abilities rather than the entire beast," Safandra said. "Right, I keep forgetting that's even possible. Like how you were using Little Blue's skills," Ning said. They waited for a while longer and the pirate ship was noticed by the others. After making sure that the pirates were truly unconscious, Ning left giant notes that read, "Pirates," on the boat and teleported to the far side of their own ship. There was already commotion in the night as the ship guards had realized they were being attacked by pirates. So, when they got ready to attack and instead noticed a bunch of people tied up on the deck, they couldn't help but be confused. Ning and Safandra acted like they weren't aware of anything and mingled into the crowd. It took a while for the whole thing to be done with, and they decided to send a few of the guards onto the pirate ship to sail it. By the time everything was settled, it was time for people to go to sleep. "All right, I'm off to go read some more," Safandra said and left. Ning was about to leave too when he noticed Taran with the girl that was apparently named Pamela. Should I say something? He wondered, but he wasn't sure what to say. Besides, it was rude to simply interrupt them when they were in such a deep conversation from the looks of it. System. Send a message to Wendy and tell her what the girl is up to. She should be able to warn him lest he gets his heart broken, Ning said. Taran's face shifted for a moment and Ning knew the message was sent. Now he had done what he needed to do and did not care more than necessary. Taran was an adult already, and he could take care of himself. Ning returned back to his room and directly went to sleep. The next day, Ning woke up early in the morning and couldn't help but feel bored. "Let's go for a swim," he thought and directly teleported out of the room and into the water nearly 100 meters below. The cold water woke him up way more than he already was and he could finally see the many fish that swam around him. It wasn't just fish, but other aquatic beasts like squids, octopus, jellyfishes, and other creatures that swam in the ocean. Using his vision skill, he could see the ocean with a clarity that was otherwise impossible for normal people. He swam underneath the shadow of the boat in hope that some beasts wouldn't come and provoke him. At the same time, he looked underneath the ship and saw exactly 7 different fishes swim alongside it. Are those the beasts that the ship's employed summoners are summoning to fend off the attackers? Ning wondered. The fishes swam giving no attention to him, so Ning looked the other way as well. I should probably get those pearls charged, he thought and brought out the 100 or so dull pearls he had. He then tied them up in a metal cage and went to the pirate ship to attach the pearls to it. Ning swam for a bit longer and finally decided to return back to the ship for some food. He teleported back into his room and searched for a towel in the closet to dry himself. Just then, he heard a knock on the door and quickly went to the door to see who it was. When he opened it, he saw a deathly-looking Safandra haggard around the door while holding a hand to her mouth. Oh shit, he thought and quickly brought out one of the seasickness medicine and quickly fed her. Only after eating the medicine did Safandra finally feel better. Thank you," she said. "It's all right," Ning said. "I'm sorry I forgot to give you the pill. I thought it would have lasted longer." "I thought so too," Safandra said while taking deep breaths. "What were you doing? You took so long to open the door." Safandra then finally looked at him and made a weird face. "Why are you so wet?" she asked. Ning started drying himself with the towel and said, "I was taking a swim in the ocean." "Why?" Safandra asked. "No reason. I was just bored," Ning said. Then he remembered something and said, "Oh right, you don't know how to swim right? Want to try?" "What? No, I don't want to," she said. "Come on, It will be fun. You can swim with the fishes, Ning said. No, 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 Safandra said and tried to run away, but Ning closed the door. Come on, Ning said and grabbed her before disappearing. When they reappeared, they were in the air a few hundred meters away from the ship. All right. Time to go swim, Ning said and let her go, but Safandra kept on flying. Come on, just get in there. It's just water. I won't do anything to you, Ning said. No, 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 Safandra said and tried to run back to the ship when suddenly a giant tentacle emerged from the sea and wrapped itself around Ning before dragging him in. Save me! Ning shouted as he was taken in by the monster. What? Safandra was surprised and scared, but she knew Ning could save himself. He was strong after all. However, even as she waited, Ning never came out at all. As seconds went by, she started to get worried. When she saw no movement at all, she realized he was in trouble and would need to save him. So, she steeled her resolve and pushed back her fear before plunging into the dark and cold water to save Ning from the clutches of the monster. Safandra plunged through the ocean and rocketed herself down the water in search of Ning. She couldn't know how far down Ning had gone, so she continued going down, forgetting her fear. Ning stayed in the water and freely watched Safandra swim through the ocean trying to find him. The monster he had summoned to grab him was already gone, and he was waiting by himself. After seeing Safandra go down further and further, he was a little surprised. I thought she would be a little more scared, he thought, but he could see no hint of awkwardness in her swimming. For a person who was scared of swimming, she was swimming quite well. I should go get her before she goes too deep and ruptures her eardrums, Ning thought and teleported next to her before grabbing her and teleporting her out of the water. Huh? What? She looked around in shock and saw Ning. You're fine? Sorry about that, Ning said. I had to get you into the water. Suddenly, she punched Ning in the chest with all the force she could muster. Her hand hurt as if she had just punched an iron wall. Don't ever do that, she shouted at him. Ning healed her hand silently and said, But why are you afraid? You are an amazing swimmer. I am afraid, she shouted. I am afraid if I swim I will, you won't understand. She shouted at him and flew towards the ship. Ning sighed and apologized as he flew along with her. She was still annoyed at him, but her anger had dropped after Ning promised not to pull off a stupid stunt like that again. When they landed on the ship, a few of the people that were on the deck stared at them stupidly. Ning saw the green-haired Norin amongst the people and Norin couldn't help but try to explain it was just a coincidence. Ning ignored him and brought out a towel, surprising the people again before putting it around Safandra to dry herself. He also brought out a towel for himself and walked towards the kitchen with Safandra behind her. They took a few fruits from the dining area and went back to their room. Ning apologized once again and Safandra was finally no longer angry. After a while, lunch came around and they went to eat. Once again, Taran was with Pamela and seemed chummy with her. Does he know what he is doing? Safandra asked. Yeah, I let him know already. Whatever he does now is his actual choice, Ning said. Well, if that's what he wants then who am I to care, Safandra said and got a tray to grab some food. Ning grabbed a plate behind her and took some of the food as well. Once they got their food, they looked around to see an empty table, but there was none. Every table was occupied, even if it was just a single person sitting there, so, without any choice, they had to go and sit with their friend. Hey, will we bother you if we sit here? Safandra asked. Yes. No, two conflicting answers came from Taran and Pamela respectively. Pam, these are my friends I'm traveling with. Safandra and Ning, Taran introduced. Guys, this is Pamela, my new girlfriend. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I thought you were random passers-by. Please sit, Pamela said. Pamela was a blonde-haired beauty with a small face and curly hair. She was on the shorter end when it came to humans on this planet, but that didn't stop her from seeming mature. Thank you, Safandra said and sat down. Girlfriend? Ning couldn't help but be surprised. In 2 days? What can I say? Girls can't resist my charm, Taran said smugly. Really? I must not be a girl then, Safandra said and chuckled to herself. Sorry, I'm just joking. Oh my god, I love your hair, Pamela said to Safandra. Really, it's a little wet because someone decided to dunk me in the ocean, but other than that I guess it's good, Safandra said. Your hair isn't bad either. My hair could never get that curly. Oh no, I was talking about the color, Pamela said. It's so vivid and violet. Can you tell me what dye you use? Dye. He is responsible for all the dyes around here, Taran quickly interjected. He's the one who dyed my hair black too. Otherwise, we would have had matching blonde hair. Yes, I'm the one who dyes their hair, Ning said, going along with the lie. Do you need me to dye your hair too? Oh no, I can't, Pamela said. My job won't allow me. We require to have our color visible for everyone to see. Oh, what job do you do? Safra asked. It's nothing big really. I'm just a small scout for the Thousand Summons School, she said proudly. Thousand Summons School? Ning asked. I'm sorry, we don't know much about the world. What is this Thousand Summons School? It's only the second biggest summoning school in the whole world. How could you have not heard of it? She asked. Sorry, we come from a place where it felt like we were the only person alive in the entire world, Ning said with a genuine smile. Safra held her laugh and Taran got a little scared that Ning was going to screw it all up. If you're from a big school like that and you're scout, what are you scouting for? Ning asked. For a talented individual like my boyfriend here. We are searching for people like him with unlimited spiritual energy so that we can teach them to harness it and become one of the better summoners in the whole world, she said. Oh, you scouted Taran for that task, huh? It's surprising really. He's usually shy about showing off his summons in front of everyone. He showed it to you? Ning asked. Yes, I saw it, and he's amazing, Pamela said. I see, that's great then, Ning said. I'm happy my friend is going to go to such an amazing place like the Thousand Summons School. The four of them finished eating and stood up to leave. Just as they were doing so, Taran took Ning and Safra to the side to speak in private. You guys aren't mad that I'm doing this, are you? Taran asked. Not really, Ning said. As long as you know what you're doing, I see no problem. I couldn't care less either, Safra said. Thank you, Taran said. Right. Do you want me to dye your hair? I can make it so that it doesn't wash off, Ning said. Yes, if you can, thanks, Taran said. I will visit your room tonight. Also, I have something else to say. What is it? Ning asked. We won't be dropping off at Darius. I will take a connecting ship directly to the Thousand Summons School, Taran said. Well, that seems a little hasty but sure, Ning said. What will you do when you find a spaceship coming? How will you let me know? Taran asked. You don't have to worry about that. There is nowhere in this planet that you can go to that I won't be able to find you in, Ning said. Also, if you ever need any help, just let me know. How can I do that? Taran asked. Just ask Wendy, she can send me messages, Ning said and walked away. Safra quickly followed him and went back to their rooms. While Safra read up on the language, Ning read up on the summoning circles again. These things were so complicated that Ning couldn't understand much on a single read-through. Ning came and they went to dinner again. Later at night, Taran came to Ning's room and got his hair dyed all yellow. Ning made sure to use something that would last forever and not wash away. In fact, he made it so that no matter how much Taran's hair grew out, it would forever remain yellow. Once that was done, Taran returned back to his room and Ning went to sleep. The next morning, he was awakened by some violent bangs on the door and he lazily got to the door to open it. As expected, it was a seasick Safra that was here to ask for her medicine. Ning sighed and handed her medicine. Thank you, she said. I should really keep some for myself. You should, Ning said as he yawned. I'm going back to sleep, bye. Are you that sleepy? She asked. Kinda, Ning said. You might want to go sleep as well. You don't want to be lethargic when we disembark later today. Oh, we're reaching today. Yes, finally, Safra felt glad. Yes, I'll go rest too then. Ning only woke up again at noon for lunch. Safra was already awake by then and was reading her books again. Wanna go eat lunch? Ning asked her from outside the door. Sure, she said and walked out in one of her newer dresses. You look nice, Ning said. Thank you, she said and walked together to the dining hall. They were some of the last people to come for lunch so the hall was quite empty. They finally got to eat in peace and then went by the deck to wait. Look, I can see land, Safra said as she pointed to the distance. Oh, there it is, Ning said as he saw the land too. Darius Kingdom. At this rate, we should be there in half an hour. Let me go grab my stuff. Ning teleported away from right where he was and appeared back in the exact spot 5 seconds later. Where did you? Why are you wet? She asked him. I had to go get this, Ning said as he showed her the hundreds of pearls in the metal cage that he had just ripped off from underneath the pirate boat. What's this? She asked. I put it in the water to recharge it while we were in the ocean, Ning said. Come on, let's get ready to leave. Safra sighed and went back to her room to pack all of her stuff and handed them over to Ning, who conveniently stored it in his storage. Damn it, I wish I had a storage too, she said. It's a shame you can't. Most places I've been to have some sort of storage, Ning said. No, people do have storage here too, Safra said. Most people can summon a monster that can store objects into the void. Oh, they can? Ning asked curiously. Why don't they do it then? It costs quite a lot of spiritual energy to keep a monster or its skill summoned, you know. Imagine walking around an entire day with a monster summoned. You know how much energy it would consume? She asked. It would take a person nearly a week or more of continuous seclusion with many pearls to get back their spiritual energy. If their rank is high, then they might be able to afford a low-rank monster, but for people with low rank it's pretty much impossible, Safra said. That kinda makes sense, Ning said with a thoughtful expression. Especially considering that people can't just use techniques to absorb spiritual energy. Anyway, it's time to leave, let's go, Safra said and walked out to the deck. A few minutes later, the port was visible with a lot of other ships coming and going, and a few minutes after that, the ship stopped. A ladder came down and everyone started leaving the ship one by one. Ning and Safra left along with Pamela and Taran, who now had flowing golden hair. This is it, guys, Taran said. I'm leaving with Pam in one of these ships right now. Alright. Good luck, Safra said. See you later then, Ning said and waved his hand to Taran and Pamela. Take care you too, Pamela said and walked away with Taran. What do you think will happen when she finds the truth? Safra asked. No idea, Ning said as he chuckled. Come on, let's go find a place to stay. Darius' kingdom was a collection of 12 different islands, each with a city on it. Darius's capital, Darius City, was at the center of it all and was the largest island of the kingdom. It was about 20 kilometers wide and 40 kilometers long. The majority of the island was inhabited, except for a small patch of land in the south that was a desert. Ning and Safra landed at the eastern port of the city and walked in. They took a small carriage to a hotel in the city and registered themselves there. Once done, they went out into the city to check it out. They ate some local delicacies, bought some clothes, and overall had a great time. It was evening when they returned back to the hotel and went to their separate room. The next morning, Ning met up with Safra down in the lobby. Come, you have to try this tea. It's so cooling, Ning said when he saw Safra. Ning, I want to talk to you about something, she said. Oh, this seems serious, Ning said. What is it? I'm kind of feeling like I'm being spoiled right now, she said. I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean, Ning said. You know. You pay for my food, you pay for my clothes, you pay for where I stay at, you pay for my travels, she said. Hell, you're just one step away from making me your wife. Oh, no, Ning said. Look, you're a beautiful woman, and any man would be lucky to be with you, but I already have a woman. I wasn't coming on to you, but good to know, Safra said. What I'm trying to say is, I need to be independent. I can't just rely on you all the time. Oh, sure, I don't mind helping you, but if you feel bad about it, sure, go ahead, Ning said. What exactly can you do though? Safra thought for a second. With how bad her language was, anything that required communication was a no-go. Can you create stuff you can sell? Ning asked. No, Safra said disappointedly. I can't cook, I can't create. I can do labor work, but I don't know if I want to do that or not. Well, what exactly are you good at? Ning asked. Fighting. Safra said without hesitation. Remind me again, what exactly did you do back on your planet? Ning asked. Safra sighed for a second and said, I was part of a law-keeping group. Oh, so police. You can't do that here without your language fixed up. Maybe the circle will take you here if we explain to them, Ning said. Can you really not summon it all? Safra shook her head. Little Blue takes away all the spiritual energy, she said. You made such a bond? Ning asked. Kind of like that, she said. Well, can't you just unsummon her? Or are you afraid of losing your skills? Ning asked. Safra still shook her head. I can't really explain it, she said. Well, I guess then we should go to the summoning circle. I have to go there anyway to rank up in any case, Ning said. Alright. Let's go, Ning said. The two of them left the hotel on a cloudy day and reached the summoning circle not long after. Ning walked in and saw that this place was quite a lot better looking than the one in Tirana City. The building was large, the room was spacious, and it was a lot more crowded than it was back there. So many people, Ning said as he looked around. Do they even have quests here for folks like us? Ning walked over to the quest board and saw that it was at least 3 times larger than the board back in Tirana City. Starting from the right with rank 1, the quests got more and more difficult as it moved towards the left, ending with quests that required one to be rank 5. That's the best. Ning wondered. Come on, let's go, Safra said as she looked around and noticed the dirty gazes of the men around her. Sorry, you're right, Ning said and walked over to the clerk. Hello. My friend here would like to register into the circle, but she already has a beast summoned. Can she still register? Ning asked. Yes, the clerk said. We just need to check the rank of her summon. Great, Ning said. No, not great, Safra said. Little Blue isn't a beast with a rank. I can't show her around. Ning said. He quickly turned around and said, my friend here has only summoned the beast's skills and not the beast itself. What can she do? Just unsummon the beast and summon it again, the clerk said in a monotone voice. You can't unsummon Little Blue, right? Ning asked her. I told you before, no, Safra said. I know, I was just checking, Ning said and turned around. That is not possible either. My friend cannot remove her bonds. Is there any other way? If she can't summon a beast to show us, then she can't join the circle, the clerk said. Is there any other way then? I can assure you she's super strong. She just can't summon any beast right now, Ning said. The clerk finally got angry. If she's so damn strong then take her to the damn arena to fight and stop wasting my time, he shouted at Ning. Ning didn't get offended at the clerk's outburst. Instead, he got curious. Arena? Care to tell us more about it? He asked. How do you not know about the arena? It's where you go to fight and earn money from fighting. If you're strong, go there, he said. Oh, thanks for telling us. We'll definitely go there, Ning said. But first, I need to change my rank. Ning took out his summoner's card and asked, what do I need to do for that? Ning quickly filled up the form he was handed and was taken to the back area, which was a massive training ground where many different people and beasts were fighting each other. Whoa, this is huge, he said as he was made to stand in a line. He looked to his left and saw another line next to him. Hey, do you know what there are 2 different lines? Ning asked the girl in the line before him. Those are for people that are newbies or looking to upgrade their color. You must be here to change your rank. Since you are still only red, you get to skip your hair being washed, the girl said. Oh, Ning said as he realized it all made sense. He looked around while waiting for his turn and saw the different beasts. They're training, huh? I should probably get in tune with the beasts I summon and train with them too, he thought. Just because a beast was strong, didn't mean it was going to absolutely go to win every battle. As long as there was a chance it could lose, one would have to minimize the chance. The training was the best way of doing so. For 15 minutes, Ning watched a bunch of people succeed and fail at summoning a monster above the rank that was written on their card. Finally, it was his turn. Ning handed over his card and the tester saw it. Summon any monster that is above rank 2, he said. Ning nodded and closed his eyes. The moment he did so, he disappeared into the darkness and saw the many bright spots of light all around him. He searched around for a bit and saw a very bright star in the distance. Ning grabbed it and spoke, "Come to me and be tamed by me. In exchange, I shall give you 20% of my spiritual energy." He waited for a few seconds but nothing happened. When he opened his palm, the light wasn't there anymore. Did I fail? He thought. But why? Was the bond conditions not good enough? Ning wondered why it happened, but there wasn't much thinking he could do. He didn't have the time. He grabbed onto another bright, but dimmer than the first one, light and attempted to say his bond condition. Before he did so, he made sure that the conditions were most suitable for the beast would be summoned. Bond with me and be controlled for in a danger-less area for 5 minutes. In exchange, you may have 50% of my spiritual energy, he said. The beast took a deceptively long time to consider the conditions. So much so that Ning thought he had messed it all up again. However, just as he was about to try again, he was brought out of the darkness and a summoning circle appeared in front of him. Ning looked at the summoning circle, and before the beast even came out, he knew a few things about the beast just based on the circle. Given the thickness of the outer lines, the beast was a rank 6 beast. It was a beast of the lightning attribute and was also a carnivorous beast. Between being a physical, elemental, or mental-focused beast, this one was mostly elemental with not bad physical capabilities. That was all Ning managed to figure out in the split second it took for the circle to send out a beast. In a crackle of lightning, a majestic fox with azure fur appeared in the midst of the summoners. Its eyes were glowing orbs of white that shined as if they were a source of light. The fox had a long, furred tail that crackled with electricity as it moved around. From time to time, the electricity crackled around its body too. As if it had intelligence, it looked at the humans around it in disdain and turned to the sky to cry like the fox it was. The surrounding grew darker for a moment as clouds full of lightning began to gather in the sky, which turned away a moment after the fox stopped crying. "Holy shit!" a man shouted from the side. "What rank is that?" another girl asked. A bit of murmur began with the fox as the subject of the conversation. People kept wondering what it was and what rank it was. Did you summon this thing?" the tester asked. "I sure did," Ning said. He knew that he had to have the fox do something to prove that he had control of it, so he decided to ask a few things about the fox. "Run in circles around me," Ning said. The fox grunted a bit but quickly followed the orders as it was bonded. "Now, jump over me," Ning said. The fox obeyed, albeit reluctantly. "Now attack that rock with your lightning," Ning said. Grr. The fox looked toward the rock. In the next second, the fox's entire body was covered in lightning that in a single instant shot at the rock and broke it into 100 pieces. "Good," Ning said with a proud face. He then turned around and looked at the tester. "This means I pass, right?" Yeah. Absolutely, you passed, but," the tester didn't know how to bring the next sentence up. "But what? Is there something wrong with the beast I summoned?" Ning asked. "No, nothing is wrong on your end," the tester said. I just don't know what this beast's rank is." "Ah," Ning said as he understood. The tester himself was only a rank 4 summoner, so anything above his own rank would be vague at best for him. "He's a rank 6 beast," Ning said. Is that so?" the tester asked. "Yes," Ning said. The fox was unsummoned very soon and Ning was sent back into the circle. "Did you do it?" Safra asked. "Yeah, I'm just waiting for the card to be updated," Ning said. 5 minutes later, the card arrived, and to Ning's surprise, he got rank 5. Is there a mistake with my card? It says rank 5, Ning said. "Yeah, there was a problem with the testing," the clerk said. "You summoned a beast that our staff couldn't rank properly, so we only had you to go by to say that it was rank 6. While it probably was, without concrete evidence, it's hard to rank you as such. However, do not worry. Even as rank 5, you will lose no opportunity here as rank 5 is the highest quest we ever receive anyway," the clerk said. "Well, that sucks," Ning said. "I guess I can't help it then, thanks for upgrading my rank." Ning turned around and left with Safra. He didn't even bother looking at the quest board as there was something far more interesting that was occupying his mind at the moment. The two of them quickly made their ways through the city as they arrived at the northern end of the city next to the ocean. There was a massive cliff on that side and on the cliff was a giant arena. It was far away from the edge that it wasn't a disaster waiting to happen. When Ning arrived outside the arena, he couldn't help but be shocked at the sheer size of it. It wasn't much vertically, but horizontally it was massive. Ning wouldn't be surprised if there was more than just a single arena in there. And that was exactly what it was. Inside that giant arena was 4 smaller arenas. Ning and Safra decided to first check out the fights instead of directly joining to fight. When buying the entry ticket, Ning and Safra were asked a few questions. "Beastless or with beast?" the man asked. With beasts," Ning said, unsure what that was about. "Pros or newbies?" the man asked. "Let's start with newbies," Ning said. "Alright, here you go. 2 tickets for beasts newbies, 16 pearls, the man said. That's quite expensive, Ning thought, but he paid the pearls anyway. He was made to go through one of the 4 doors, so Ning and Safra followed the people that went ahead of them and soon saw an opening to a massive arena. They quickly found 2 empty seats and sat down as they watched the fights in the stages below them. There was exactly 4 stages down in front of them and each of them had 2 humans sitting on the sideline as 2 beasts duked it out in front of them. Oh, Ning said as he realized what the beastless or with beast's choice at the front desk was about. The other arena must have people fighting without beasts, Ning said. Wow, they really are newbies, Safra said as she watched the young people on the stage fight. Ning didn't want to say it out loud, but he agreed too. On the stage that was titled, B, on its ground, one of the beasts vanished as it was unsummoned. The crowd erupted into a shout of, hooray, and, boo. That's a strong reaction for someone who's watching newbies fight, Safra said as the people around her confused her. True, Ning said and focused on the people talking to eavesdrop and see what it was all about. Yes. One man shouted while pumping his fists in the air. I got 30 pearls. Damn it. Another man shouted. I should have known not to trust a goddamn beginner to win this match. I lost 20 pearls. I told you. I earned more than you lost, the first man said. I'ma go bet on that guy again with my profits. Oh, Ning said as he realized what was going on. These people are gambling. There's probably a bet going around, there. Ning saw a caged room where people were going to enter from with pearls on their hands. Do you want to bet? It's an easy way to make money, Ning said. Well, who will I bet on? Safra asked as she looked down below. I can barely tell if they have spiritual energy or not from up here. Let me see, Ning said and looked at the people down below. That guy in red, he's rank 3, while that guy in orange is just rank 2. If you bet on the guy in red, you should win. Alright, let me try. Safra stood up and walked over to the betting area. Ning walked along with her just in case. Using her broken language, she managed to bet 10 spiritual pearls on the guy in red. She was handed a slip of paper that mentioned her bet and said that if she won, she would gain 1.5 times as much as she bet. Safra watched hopefully at the battle that then commenced. However, it was very quickly apparent that Ning was right. So, when the man in red won, Safra wasn't very surprised. However, she was happy at the fact that she just won 5 pearls all by herself. She quickly received the 15 pearls and handed 10 back to Ning before keeping 5 for herself. Who should I bet on next? She asked. Ning looked around and frowned. Everyone is rank 2 down there now, he said. There is nothing definite you can bet on at the moment. Do you want to put it to chance? Safra looked at her 5 pearls and shook her head. These are the first things I've ever earned. I'm not going to waste them on a bet I'm not sure about, she said. Well, then you will have to bet them on a person you know will win, right? Ning said. Safra looked down at the 8 people that were getting ready for their fight. Who do you say I should bet on? She asked. I wasn't talking about them, Ning said. Not them? Then who? She asked and turned to look at Ning. However, Ning only had a stupid smile on her face. You aren't saying that, Safra asked. I'm saying exactly that, Ning said. Somehow, Safra started feeling a little excited. Alright, go register. I will wait for your turn. Ning found his way to a mostly empty room as he was directed here by an employee. Is this where I register? He asked the guard. Yes, sit there, your turn will come, the girl said. Ning nodded and sat in the waiting area that had about 4 other people aside from him. One by one they went to the man that was registering them and soon it was Ning's turn. Name? The man asked. Ning Ruigong, Ning said. Age? He then asked. 18, Ning said. The man looked at him and wrote the rest of the information. Do you have any sort of identification? He asked. Does this work? Ning asked as he brought out his summoner's card. Yes, it does, the man said. Let's see, rank 5? Is this true? Absolutely, Ning said. Your hair is still red though. Let me guess, you're taking part in the one with beasts? He asked. Yes, Ning said. He didn't want to bother fighting on his own. The fee to register in the fights was 20 full pearls, and that was only the cost of a single day. Ning was surprised, but he still paid it. Alright, you are all set up. Go to the left room next. You will be put on a waiting list and will get your chance to fight soon enough, the guy said. Thanks, Ning said and walked through a hallway before taking the door to his left. When he arrived, he was immediately handed a piece of paper with the number 212 on it. What is the current number on? Ning asked. Well, the arena only opened up 2 hours ago, so it's around 100, the guard said. Ning thanked him and sat down in a waiting area as he looked at the nearly 100 different people that were waiting for their turn to come. Ning saw many beasts that were already summoned prior to the fight as people waited for their turn to come. He saw the guy in red that he had Safra bet on there as well. So everyone is here, huh? Ning thought. He saw people get called for their turn as well as people coming back from the fight and going straight to the guard to get their ticket for the next turn. One such person sat next to him with the number 243 with him. Did you come back from fighting? Ning asked him. Yes, I won, the man said. Are you a newbie? Yes, I just joined. Anything I should know about? Ning asked. Let's see, the man thought for a moment. I don't know how strong you are, but it's better to take things slowly at the start so that people don't instantly start betting on you. The more they don't bet on you, the more you earn, the man said. Oh, how does that work? Ning asked. The betting house always gives a percentage of your enemy's bets to you if you win. If you appear strong from the start, not many will bet against you and you won't earn, the man said. Oh, Ning said, but won't it be fine if I bet on myself? Your bets are valued based on the two fighters' bets. If you get a lot of bets made on you, the profit won't be nearly as good as what you would get if they put money on your enemy. Not only will you earn a lot from the payment alone, you will also earn from the bet, the man said. Although, be absolutely careful not to lose a match just to earn money. You don't want to be found out by these people that you are fixing your match, the man said. No problem, Ning said. He wasn't planning on doing so either way. After an hour of waiting, it was finally Ning's turn. The fights are getting faster and faster, huh? He thought as he walked out. Along with him walked the number 211, a girl with a bright orange hair that he could tell was a rank 2. Already an orange hair in rank 2, Ning thought. When the hell am I going to get my hair changed? Fortunately, hair color didn't play any part when it came to beast summoning. It only affected when one had to summon just the power of a beast. Next to the girl was a wolf of silver and brown patches, which was also a rank 2 beast. As a rank 2 beast, Ning knew it didn't have any skills yet, so he would just have to summon something of rank 3 to win it. No, I can't have my beast show off its skills at the very beginning. I need to slowly increase my skills, Ning thought. Once he was on the stage and ready to fight, he took a quick glance over at Safra by the betting room and knew she was ready. Then, he closed his eyes and reached into the sea of darkness to call for a rank 3 beast with superior physical abilities. When the bond was formed, a summoning circle appeared with patterns that said the beast had strong physical skills as well as being a wind elemental beast. When the beast was summoned, Ning saw that it was a giant mantis that was at least 4 feet tall. It just looked like an oversized mantis, but it did have strong-looking arms. The referee saw that the two were ready, so he asked them to prepare, and a few seconds later started the match. Kick the wolf softly, Ning ordered mentally to the mantis that immediately dashed forward and kicked the wolf that was barely starting to move. The wolf staggered but managed to keep standing and came at the mantis. The mantis was ready to defeat the wolf but Ning told it to take the hit. The mantis didn't understand why it had to be hit, but it obeyed what Ning told it to do and took the hit. Alright, I think we sold ourselves as weak, Ning said softly. Time to win the fight. The mantis and the fox fought for a few minutes longer until Ning was sure it was enough time for the match to be full of bets. Then, he ordered the mantis to defeat the wolf. In the most uninteresting fashion, the mantis swiped its claws at the wolf and defeated it. Even then, many people jumped up and down as they clapped at the end of his match. Evacuate the stage, the referee ordered, and Ning walked out of the stage. Along the way, one of the staff handed him a piece of paper that looked exclusive to the arena and had 2 numbers written on it. 106 and 33. What is this? Ning asked the girl. You're earning, the girl said. I earned 106? Ning asked, unbelievingly. No, that's the match number. You earned 33 pearls. You can go get it cashed in if you were going to leave, the girl said. Oh no, I still want to fight, Ning said, slightly surprised at how much he had earned. He would have to do at least 2 different tasks of the rank 2 variant to earn this much in the summoning circle. Somehow, the arena was a much better place to earn in. Ning went back to the waiting area with his mantis and got his next number, 265. That's not very far off, he thought as he looked at the 50 or so people in the room. I guess most of them are repeat fighters. No wonder the number didn't increase much. Hey bro, how did it go? The man who informed him before asked. Great, thanks for the tips. I managed to earn quite a lot more than I would probably have thanks to you, Ning said. No problem, the man said. Ning sat down somewhere with his mantis staying guard for him and waited for his turn to come. This is so slow, as even after half an hour, they were barely at 250. He was still 2 sets of fighters away from it being his turn. As he waited, a man came next to him and sat down. Your mantis looks quite strong, the man said. Thanks, Ning said, not sure why the man started a conversation with him. Did you already fight before this? The man asked. Yes, Ning said. This guy here helped me win it. How long did the match take? The man asked. Ning started getting suspicious after the man's relentless question. It took a while. About 10 minutes, he said. That's quite a long time, the man said. What's this man's number? Ning asked the system. No wonder, Ning thought. It is a long time, Ning said. That girl's fox was strong and kept defending my mantis attacks. It took me a lot of hits to defeat that thing. Wow, that beast must be strong as well then, the man said. Yeah, it was rank 2, just like my mantis here, Ning said. I see, the man said. I should go now. Ning watched the man leave and soon a smirk appeared on his face. Half an hour later, it was his turn to fight. When Ning stood up to leave, the man appeared from the other side and looked at Ning with surprise. What a coincidence, I didn't think I would have to fight you, the man said. Oh, that is a coincidence, isn't it? Ning said. Well, good luck, the man said and walked ahead of him. Where's this guy's beast? Ning wondered as he looked around, but it didn't look like there was one. Ning went up to the stage and waited for the referee to ask them to prepare their beasts. Ning's mantis was already out, so he sent the mantis forward. At the same time, the man ahead summoned a beast as well. A massive bear that was near twice the man's size in all dimensions appeared on the stage. It was a black bear, furred from top to bottom. Ning checked the bear and was surprised when he realized the bear was still at rank 2. It must be one of the strongest beasts in rank 2 if that guy is so confident then, he thought. His eyes zoomed in his vision as he turned toward Safra to see her excited look. Looks like she had bet her money on me then, Ning thought and turned back to the match. Start, the referee said and the both of them ordered their beasts. Ning ordered his mantis to mostly dodge for now while the man ordered the bear to destroy the mantis in front of them. In his eyes, Ning's beast was a weakling in front of him which could barely even win against a fox. In front of the bear he had summoned, there was no way for it to defeat them. It wasn't just him that saw it, but the whole audience. So, there wouldn't be much bet on Ning anyway. As such, the man wanted to end the match and go on to the next one. The bear slammed its paws at the mantis, or at least where it was. With the mantis jumping around, it had a hard time catching up to the mantis. Ning had the mantis take a couple of close calls and even a hit to the side. However, no matter how many times the bear tried to hit it, the mantis never really took any damage. Ning understood that slowly the betting would start to shift for the other side, so he decided to end the match. The mantis suddenly stopped dodging and dashed straight toward the bear. The bear was caught off guard and tried to hit the mantis back, but it was too slow. The mantis attacks hit the bear so hard that a summoning circle appeared below the bear to immediately summon it back to where it came from. Very few people cheered for Ning's victory this time. That's weird, he thought. Wait, did they not bet on me? Ning quickly returned to the lady that handed him his slips and saw 2 numbers written on them. For match 133, he had won exactly 79 pearls. Ning fought multiple times the whole day and he never once had to swap the mantis out for anything else. By the end of the day, he earned about 240 pearls. He had earned quite a bit around the first half of the day, but on the second half, people realized that he was strong and stopped betting against him. Still, he earned quite a bit and he was not mad about it. Once he left the arena around evening time, he met up with Safra outside and excitedly told her how much he earned. What? 240? She asked in surprise. I barely got 100. I earned maybe 2 or 3 around your ladder matches. Yeah, I think if you want to earn more, you should join the arena and fight on your own, Ning said. Yeah, I will do that, Safra said. For now, let's go eat something. I'm hungry and the arena's food is quite expensive. Alright, let's go back to the hotel, Ning said. No, let's go to a restaurant or something. I earned money today, so my treat, Safra said. Sure, Ning said and the two walked through the night street. However, before they reached any sort of restaurant, it started raining heavily and they needed to take a shelter. They found a hardware store and took cover for a while to wait out the rain, but it didn't seem like it was going to stop. Come on, I can keep away the rain, Safandra said and was about to use her powers when Ning stopped her. Do you want to go through the same thing as in Tirana City? Using powers in public space is against the law, Ning said. Then what do we do? She asked. Ning looked around the road and saw a bunch of people walking around with umbrellas. We can use those, he said and created 2 of them for each of them. How do you keep making stuff? So easily too, she asked. Does it have to do with that system of yours? Kind of, yes, Ning said. I don't want to go into detail. Let's go this restaurant of yours. Safandra nodded and the 2 of them walked away from the place. Not far away, they noticed a small restaurant that was not so crowded and got in. The food wasn't the tastiest, but it had heart, so Ning and Safandra ate a lot of it. As they did, they got to talking and soon enough Safandra asked a question that had been on her mind for a long time. How did you get your system? She asked. My system? Ning was amazed she even dared to ask such a thing. I didn't really get it, I guess. It's more like it just came to me. Yes, Ning said. That's how most systems go. You don't go out finding them, they come to you. I mean, look at Genesis. He only gathered us because he didn't know who to choose. If he did, one of us would have randomly had a system, while the rest of us would be living all alone in a world without life, Ning said. Besides, don't think about getting a system. Systems are really bad. I know I sound like a hypocrite, but my situation is a little different. Just trust me when I say that you will be a lot better without any system with you, Ning said. Don't worry, I wasn't going to ask how I could get one, Safandra said. I don't think I would want one, considering. Considering? Ning asked. Never mind, she said. So, systems are rare, huh? Since we're in a new galaxy, maybe there is another tournament going on here with another system. I doubt it, Ning said. Genesis was a special case. So there are no systems in this galaxy? She asked. Well, let me check, Ning said and asked the system. Apparently there are. Ning's eyes then shifted for a second as he came up with another set of information. But none on this planet. So you can live your life without worry. Sigh, alright, let's talk about the arena then, she said. Oh right, Ning said as he went on to explain everything he learned in the arena today. Oh, so I have to appear weak? That's going to be hard, Safandra said. Well, no need to show off in front of me, Ning said. What? No, that's not what I meant, Safandra said. I am only strong offensively. While I could restrain my powers, if I get attacked, I will be done for. How do you usually survive your fights then? Ning asked. I use my powers but I can't restrain my offense and defense separately, Safandra said. If I have to do the 2 at the same time, they will be equally strong. Well, I'm sure you'll think of something, Ning said and continued eating. Half an hour later, the rain had subsided. The 2 of them walked out. Safandra's eyes were wide open with shock as she realized that the meal the 2 of them had just now was worth 20 pearls. That was a fifth of what she had earned in total today. If she had to include another meal and maybe some lunch and snacks, she would lose nearly half of what she had earned today. Damn, why are things so expensive? She asked. You will get used to it, Ning said and started walking. The wet smell of rain still lingered in the air until they reached the hotel. Then, the 2 of them separated to go to their own rooms. Safandra studied the language, while Ning studied the circle. He knew everything by now, but he had a hard time recognizing all the little details that were in a circle at a single glance. He needed to train that part of his mind. Surprisingly, however, it was really easy for him as he trained every day. The talent he bought was surprisingly working better than he could hope for. Once he was done, he went to sleep and woke up early next day as another adventure awaited them. What is he asking me? Safandra quietly asked. Your age, Ning told her. Oh, 21. Safandra said to the person in the registration room. Did I say that right? Ning nodded. The man asked a bunch of more questions that ended up with her double-checking with Ning to make sure she was saying it all correctly. All right, I will need to check if your hair really is orange or not, the man said. What is he saying? Safandra asked again. Oh, to hell with it. Ning grabbed the man's head and used supreme domination. You don't need any more information. No, I don't, master, the man said. All right, let's go in, Ning said. What did you do? Safandra asked with a surprised expression. Just a little persuasion, nothing else, Ning said and pushed her along. All right, you go that way. I need to go this way, Ning said. Okay. See you later tonight, Safra said and went to the waiting room for newbies that were fighting without beasts. Ning watched the orange-haired Safra walk towards that room. He couldn't help but agree that it wasn't a very good look on her, but that was what they needed at the moment. He was just happy that she didn't stubbornly stick with her violet hair and bring attention to herself. Ning quickly forgot about everything and went to his own room to wait for his turn. Safra reached the waiting area and just as Ning had told her, she took her waiting number and sat down by the table. She looked at the number on the paper and then tried to remember what it was. That's A7 and that's A3, she thought. She quietly pulled her sleeve back to reveal an arm full of words and numbers that were there to help her with quick translation if she needed it. Yes, 73. So I'm the 73rd, she thought. Number 17 and 18, the person by the door at the other end of the hall called out. It took more than a second for Safra to understand what the two numbers were, but she got there. So I have about 5 more collective rounds to go through before it's my turn, she thought. As she waited, she looked around and could see a few guards standing all around her, continuously checking to see if any of them were using their powers in the room. They sure are careful, she thought. As she waited, more and more people joined the room and soon there were nearly 100 people in there. What the hell? Didn't Ning say he only had 50 people in his? Is it because I'm too early perhaps? Or are these people so conscious about the spiritual energy that they don't want to summon the entire beast? She wondered. Goddammit people. There is an ocean near you. Just go take a bloody dunk if you're that worried about spiritual energy. As she thought that, Safra remembered what would likely happen to her if she went to the ocean and quickly got rid of all thought. Deep breaths. Nothing will happen to you. You don't have to go back to that place, she calmed herself. She imagined something moving on her back, but of course, there was nothing there anymore. I'm fine, she said to herself. Everything is fine. Not long after, she was called as her turn came up, so, she stood up from her bench and walked confidently to the door. Her opponent turned out to be a boy that wasn't even 18 years old yet. How the hell are your parents letting you do this? She thought for a second before remembering that anyone above 16 was considered an adult in this world. She shook her head and walked over to the stage. The referee said things that she didn't understand at all, but she did know the word, fight, so when she heard it, she got ready. The young man in front of her jumped at her from a very far distance and punched her in the face. Except, Safra was too quick about it and simply moved her head to the side and the young man completely missed it. She punched back to hit him, but the man was physically strong and so she missed him as well. She didn't really care about not hitting him however as she barely had any physical strength herself. She was just doing whatever she could to drag on the battle for more people to vote on her opponent. The young man came back flying again and kicked her in the head. Safra ducked and proceeded to punch, but she had to stop in the middle as she realized she was this close to hitting the man's jewels. That's most likely out of rule, she thought. That was the only reason she stopped at all. The young man stepped on the ground and using the same foot sent himself rotating at Safra while trying to kick her hard. Safra brought up her palm and released a bit of pushing force through it the moment the young man's legs landed on her. She made sure to have the strength be weak, but even then the man was stopped. She heard the crowd cheer and kept the fight going for a while. After nearly 5 minutes of fighting, she realized that it was time to end it. So she decided to attack him with a bit more force. However, just as she thought so, the young man did something she couldn't have believed. He suddenly sent out a fireball from his hand. Safra was surprised to see the fireball and realized that she hadn't examined the young man correctly as he definitely was not rank 2. Instead of dodging the fireball, however, she used her powers and pushed it back directly onto the young man. She pushed it back so fast that the young man didn't even have time to dodge. The young man was then sent flying out of the stage. She dumbly looked at the referee and waited for him to speak. She heard him say something and the crowd cheered. She had won. Safra walked over to the guard that handed out slips of paper for the winners. She took hers and went back to the waiting room to get another ticket. After finally sitting on the bench, she looked at the paper. 37 pearls for match 133. She read the slip of paper. She was happy to earn so much money, but something didn't make sense. Wasn't I 73rd? How were there 133 matches already? She wondered. That was when she realized she read it wrong. Could it be? Her mind went wild in surprise as she realized what the slip said. Instead of 37 pearls, she had actually earned 133. That was a third more than what she had earned yesterday, all day, and it hadn't even been time for breakfast yet. She got excited and looked forward to her next fight. Ning and Safra were both really strong for their group, and soon everyone knew. After 3 days, Ning had started to earn basically nothing and fighters conceded before it was even their turn to fight. While there were newbies every day that got paired up with them, Ning wasn't making much money now. Even earning 40 pearls a day was luxury by the 5th day. However, as a form of silver lining, the arena was considering moving him to the pros section where he would fight against people that were equally or stronger than he was. At least they claimed so. So, both Ning and Safra kept fighting normally for a little while until it was time for the test that would promote them. Ning and Safra went to the arena and went their separate path to the waiting room for each of their promotion. When Ning arrived, he saw a few other people waiting there already. When he entered, they all turned to look at him with weird looks on their face. "Haven't seen you before," one of the men said. "Same here," Ning said with a light smile. "Are you new?" the man asked. "A week or so, yes," Ning said. "I've been here for half a year, but haven't been fighting for the last month or so in preparation for this match," the man said. "Oh, good luck," Ning said. "Only a weakling requires luck to get ahead in life. Keep it, you'll need it," the man said and left. "Rude," Ning said, but quickly forgot about the man and started focusing on the various other things. More people came and soon there were about 16 of those. No, there were exactly 16 of them. Tournament-style matches, huh? Ning thought after seeing the numbers. A man walked into the room and walked over to the center and started talking. "I will be your judge for today's promotion. The idea is simple. You guys will fight one-on-one until there is only 2 person remaining. Those 2 will be promoted," the man said. "However, if I think any of you don't have what it takes to get the promotion, I will cancel it immediately. I'm not here to promote a bunch of sissies that can barely fight. If you all turn out to be just that, you will be going back to the kiddie pool," the man said. "All right, let's start. You 2, go fight." The 2 people pointed swiftly stood up and walked out of one of the doors. The other 14 of them looked around, a little unsure what to do. The man disappeared somewhere, leaving them by themselves, and only returned after a while as one of the 2 people that had left returned. Behind him was a 3-meter-tall gorilla that didn't even fit through the door and had to stay outside. Next up, 2 more people were called and they went out. About 15 minutes later, Ning's turn finally came up and he was going against the arrogant man that spoke to him today. Ning walked out of the room and went through a few beasts that stayed outside before finding out that he was going to have to fight amidst a whole slew of audience. "I didn't know we were going to have to fight in the open," Ning made a casual remark. "What? Scared?" the man asked before making his way to the other side of the stage. Ning shook his head and stayed on this side. "Summon," the referee said, and both of them closed their eyes to focus. "I need someone to fight for me all day today and beat anything that comes my way. I will give you 50% of my spiritual energy for that," Ning said. A bunch of light moved closer to him and Ning grabbed the brightest one amongst them all. The summoning circle appeared, which surprised Ning a bit. The beast was not only physically strong but also elementally and mentally. He saw symbols that meant fire as well as symbols that meant the beast was something that could fly. A bird? Ning wondered when he saw the aerial symbol. A bird with fire forever burning on its head and tail feathers arrived on the stage. His opponent summoned a giant salamander and looked smug for a while before seeing what Ning had summoned. Even without being close, just from the beast's aura, he could tell the Ning had summoned at least a rank 5 beast. Against his rank 4 salamander, the bird was easily going to destroy it. Ning looked around and wondered if there was any point in holding back. It's better to gain a reputation, he thought, and decided not to hold back at all. "Go beat his little lizard until it disappears," Ning ordered the bird. The bird screeched and flew with incredible speed as it arrived next to the salamander. Before the salamander could respond, a burning wing struck it on the stomach, leaving a charred skin. The bird then came back around and scratched it on the head with its talon. In just these 2 attacks, the salamander's summoning circle appeared and it disappeared away. "How?" The man looked with a stunned expression and Ning and his bird returned back to the waiting room. Ning let the bird stay outside with the rest of the other beasts and he alone went in. Another group fought and a single person returned from her battle. After that, the first round of matches was over and only 8 people remained. "All right, we are going to start the second round of battle," the host said. "You 2, you are up." The man chose 2 people and they went to fight. While they waited, the host then told them who else they were going to fight. Ning was paired up with a rank 4 summoner that had summoned the giant gorilla. Ning wondered how strong the gorilla was, but there was no need to worry as his bird would always be stronger than the gorilla. After all, it was a rank 6 beast. As the matches continued, Ning's turn came up and he went to the stage. Against the gorilla, his bird had no problem and they easily beat them. The crowd seemed to recognize him as they cheered quite a bit for him. Once Ning returned back to the waiting area, there were only 3 more people there and 2 of them were going to go out. Ning didn't worry much as he knew he was going to win either way. Finally, 2 of the 4 people in the room were taken away and Ning was left with a girl that had a rank 4 summoned beast. "Hi," the girl said now that they were both alone. "Hello," Ning replied back. "I overheard you talking when you came here a while ago. You said you were new, right?" she asked. "Yes, I am," Ning said. "Just a month old?" she asked. "More like a week," Ning said. "Oh, that's good," the girl said. "Would you mind listening to my request?" "I don't mind listening to it," Ning said. The girl fidgeted a bit as she said, "Can you give up the next match please?" Why would you ask that of an opponent?" Ning asked. "I'm so sorry, it's just a little important to me," the girl said. "I have a sick mother that I need to take care of and I need a lot of money very soon to heal her. I was hoping to earn that by fighting in the pro scene," she said. "I don't know if you're telling the truth or not, but I'm sorry I can't help you in that matter," Ning said and ignored her. The girl tried to speak again but the match was over and their turn was up. Already, the girl worried. All she could do now was hope to win this match. However, even as she walked out, she realized just how much her little turtle was scared of the firebird that was standing by it. The barely a meter-tall turtle made its way to the stage and stood in front of the firebird. Ning looked at the turtle and sighed. There was no point in this battle as it was practically in his hand. "Go defeat it," Ning said and the bird took to the sky before flying down at such speed that the turtle didn't even notice it. When the bird's beak hit the turtle's shell, Ning heard an audible crack as the turtle's shell was damaged from the attack. A summoning circle appeared below the turtle but the damage was a little too high for the girl's spiritual sense to handle the fight. "I'm done," she thought and slumped to the ground. Ning turned to walk back but the host appeared, bringing along another man that was the victor of the previous match. "Congratulations, you two. You will be going to the pro scene now. Come with me," the host said and took the 2 along with him. Ning looked back at the girl who was slumped on the ground with a sad face, but there wasn't much he could do for her here. The girl stayed on the stage for a while longer before another match was to take place here. At that time, she was forced to walk away. She would go back to the newbies area, but she didn't have any spiritual energy at the moment. In the last attack, all of her energy had been spent on protecting the turtle as much as it could. So, without any choice, she left the arena and walked toward the ocean. It didn't take her long to visit the beach as it was close by. When she did, she jumped into it and submerged there for a little while, absorbing the spiritual energy in the water. Aside from spiritual pearls, this was the best way to absorb them. Given how important pearls were for her at the moment, she couldn't afford to use them up and have them be dull. Who knew when an emergency came for her mother that she would need to take the pearls out to pay for her? After spending nearly half a day in the water, and then a little longer drying herself off, the girl returned back to her house. "Mom, I'm home," she said as she went to her mother's room to check up on her. However, she wasn't there at all. The girl's heart skipped a beat. "Mom, where are you?" She rushed out of the room screaming. "Stop making so much noise. What happened?" A voice came from the back of the house. The girl quickly went out to find a woman that looked like her mother, standing in front of an outdoor fire, cooking something. That woman looked like her mother, but could it really be? "How could you send someone to cure me alone? Shouldn't you accompany them?" her mother scolded her. "What?" the girl asked. "That young man that healed me. I asked where you were, and he said he didn't know," the woman said. "What young man?" the girl asked. "Wait, are you saying you were healed?" "Yes, did you expect him to fail? Honey, you should do something on impulse if you are not sure, Ab." The mother's words stopped in her mouth as her daughter suddenly hugged her. She could hear her daughter crying and her lips stretched into a gentle smile. "It's all right. I'm fine, honey," the mother said. There would never be another day when the girl cried more, nor would there be a day when she laughed more. A man sat in his room working on a bunch of papers that were on the table in front of him. There were other people in the room, but he was in charge here. "This is all the pearls we got from the pro beast fights?" The man asked one of the people working on the sofa. Yes, boss, the person said. Including the earnings from the betting house? The boss asked. Yes, the man said. Sigh, why is it so low then? Have people really stopped coming to watch the pro matches? The boss asked. I think I know the problem, boss, one of the girls said. I know the problem too. I was just venting, the boss said. These goddamn pros don't want to fight at all. Either that or they want to switch to the beast fewer matches. I can't even blame them, I guess, the boss said. It does cost quite a bit of spiritual energy to summon beasts instead of just the beast's skill itself. At least there are newbies joining, but they too see the chasm and jump ship. Maybe we should end the beast scene for pros, the boss contemplated. He looked at the file that had a picture of Ning and the others that successfully became a pro today. He brought the file to check Ning's information and was hopeful when he saw Ning's rank was 5. Just then, the door slammed open as someone barged in. Hey, you can't just stop, the boss shouted at his staff who was speaking and looked at the man that had just walked in. Brother Barry, how many I help you? The boss asked. My hairdresser ran away again, the man saw as he moved his fabulously fluffy hair around. Your hairdresser, huh, the boss said. You all, leave the room. The staff paused for a second or two before standing up to leave the room. The man named Barry closed the door and walked up to the boss. Yes, she ran away. Goddamn bitch was so ungrateful, he said. What did you do? The boss asked reluctantly. Hairdresser was just a code they used for women that Barry would try to add to his harem. While he did say harem, due to Barry's relentless domestic abuse, the girls always ran away. Nothing really. She was being a bitch, so I hit her a couple of times, that's all. Just because she lost some teeth, she decided to run away, Barry said. I need another one to play with for a while. The boss frowned. He could have most likely looked the other way if these were any women, but every single girl that Barry wanted was a pro that was a great attraction for money. Brother Barry, do you think you could maybe try to? What? Try to stop beating them. If they're being a bitch, I will hit them. Is that so wrong? Or are you trying to say that's wrong? He asked. Be careful. If my feelings hurt, I might just leave this place. That would be so bad for the arena since I just registered for a fight coming Saturday, Barry said. The boss frowned. Barry was the strongest fighter in the arena amongst all the pros, whether they fought with beasts or not. The arena was packed to the full whenever it was a high turn to fight. He had a natural ability to put on a spectacle for even the most uninteresting of fights. As such, the crowd went mad for him whenever he was on stage. If he was going to fight, then he alone would bring nearly a month's worth of pro scene money. He was one of the most valuable assets, so the boss couldn't get rid of him. I will see what I can do, the boss said reluctantly. Great, I will see you. What's that? Barry asked. What? This? It's the newly promoted newbies. They just entered the pro scene today, the boss said. Ooh, such a cutie joined the pros? Barry asked as he picked up the file that was in front of the boss. Saw, Fander? No, Safandra. She's quite pleasing to the eye, Barry said. Yes she is, the boss said. She joined today, huh? That means she hasn't chosen an opponent yet, Barry said. Why don't you make sure she picks me for her next opponent? The boss tried to refuse, but he didn't know what to say. What? Are you saying you won't? That breaks my heart. I might have to cancel my upcoming match then. Maybe I should move to another arena that would appreciate me more, Barry said. Fine, I'll do it, the boss said. You're the best, Barry said and walked away from the room. The boss slammed the table in anger and made the bunch of papers on top of it scatter around. That damn bastard, he said softly. Goddammit, if he wasn't such a moneymaker, I would have killed him myself. The staff returned one by one and got to work, but the boss's mood was way too ruined to care about the finances at the moment. The arena already lacked female fighters, and now he was going to have to force another one to destroy herself as well. He left the room and went over to the registration area. A person worked on it and immediately got up to greet the boss that walked by. Sit down, the boss said. The newly promoted came by to register yet? 2 of them did, the staff said. The other 2 seemed to want to take their time. Oh, 2 did? Which 2? Show me, the boss said. The staff showed the register and the boss read through it. When he saw the names of the 2 people who registered, Safandra was one of them surprisingly. When his eyes moved to the right to see who the opponent was, he couldn't be more shocked. Without any involvement of his own, the girl had chosen Barry to be her first opponent. Ning had gone out to help the girl's mother who was sick and had only just returned after roaming around the city. The pros all stayed in rooms provided by the arena inside the arena, so Ning was also staying here starting now. He had already been given the talk about pros and matches and everything he needed to know. Being a pro meant that one had to schedule a fight that would be advertised for people to come and watch. As a pro, one had a specific period of time between which one could challenge someone and not get challenged by someone. For the beast scene, one had to fight every 2 weeks. Given that a fighter must be challenged 1 week prior to fighting, they really just had 1 whole week to choose a fighter. Once they fought, their deadline would reset and they would once again have another week to choose a fighter. On a good cycle, one could fight 4 times in a single month. Challenging someone was mutually exclusive to being challenged. One had a 2-week grace period in which they couldn't be challenged at all. After the 2-week grace period passed, they were free to be targeted. If they were, they would gain another 2-week grace period after they fought. The structure of such challenging and getting challenged was a little more lenient for the pros that didn't fight with beasts. Due to the number of people in that group, they had more grace periods as compared to the people on the side with beasts. Of course, there were people who had special privileges as to the requirements, but overall, everyone had rules they needed to work by. Ning had to find someone to fight within a week, so he was mostly chill for the moment. He was feeling tired of the most part, so he went to sleep. The next morning, he woke up and went to the cafeteria to eat a hefty meal. After that, Ning had nothing to do, so he decided to go to the arena to watch some battles and maybe bet a bit. Just as he was about to walk out, Safra walked into the cafeteria. She found him and went up to him to talk. "Hey, did you challenge anyone yet?" she asked. "No, I have a week to do so," Ning said. "What about you?" "I did, and you won't believe who I registered against," she said. "Who?" Ning asked curiously. "The strongest fighter in the arena," Safra said. "I decided to go straight for the top." "Oh, what about the money?" Ning asked. "This is how I get to earn the most." "No?" Safra asked. "A newbie going against the best. Imagine the number of bets that would be against me. So much money at once." "That's actually a very good idea," Ning said. "When's the fight?" "Like, next Monday I think," Safra said. "Tomorrow?" Ning asked with a surprised look. "No, next one," Safra said. "We need to have a week in between of course." "Right," Ning said. "I should probably get my opponent registered too next." "Let's go right now," Safra said. "Sure." After Safra finished eating her meal, the two of them went to the registration area. Ning started speaking to the staff about his registration and the staff gave a list of available opponents for him, as well as some basic information on them about their number of matches, their win-to-loss ratio, and their hair color. Since they would be fighting with beasts, the last part didn't make much sense to learn for Ning, so he only focused on the first 2 parts. This looks good. He's won 6 out of 10 matches, so he should be the favored one in the match. Considering he's fought nearly 22 times, the crowd will also recognize him, Ning said to himself. "Please register my fight against him," Ning told the staff. The staff quickly prepared some papers and had Ning stamp his fingerprints on them. After taking the print, the staff quickly called another staff and asked him to deliver the challenge notice to the person Ning had just challenged. The staff walked out to put a name on the list of challenged and added Ning versus Hartman as a match for next Thursday. "More than a week away, huh?" Ning said as he saw the day. "Hey Ning," Safra called out. "What is it?" Ning asked. "Are these 2 names the same?" She pointed to 2 names. "Barry and Barry." "Yeah, those 2 names are the same," Ning said. "Not sure about the person though." "They're the same person too," the staff told them. "Mr. Barry is fighting this Saturday. It's quite a big event for the arena. To think he would fight twice in such a small time. He's the big man, huh? I guess we can see what he can do soon then," Ning said. "Yeah," Safra said. "I guess we will." Once they registered, Ning and Safra went to the beach. While Ning went into the water for a little swim, Safra stayed at the beach to sharpen her language even more. By now, she could easily understand the most basic sentences and could make specific requests and questions. Still, there was a lot for her to learn. After that, they went to the arena to watch the matches. The days passed just like that. Between studying the language and watching the matches in the arena, Saturday came by. Both Ning and Safra were equally surprised to see the number of people gathering to watch the main event of the day. Barry was fighting against the fifth most winning person in the arena. Due to the closeness in the rank, the importance of the event just increased by that much. Ning and Safra got seats of their own for being pros, and so they sat down and waited for the match to begin. Only after watching this match would Safra truly understand why this man was the strongest in the arena. As Ning and Safra waited for the match to begin, they noticed just how many people had come to the arena this morning. "Look at those people, they look like nobles," Safra said. "And that man over there, I think he's a well-known merchant around here," Ning said. "Wait, aren't those the colors of the Darius royal family? Is a royal family member here today?" Safra asked. They were truly surprised by just how massive the event was for what should have been a simple match between two summoners. "I might end up earning way more than I would have thought," Safra said. "Are you sure you will be able to earn at all?" Ning asked as he looked around. "He might actually end up being monstrous given the people here." "We'll find out soon," Safra said. As if on schedule, a host arrived on the stage and started welcoming everyone in the massive audience. The fee these people had paid alone made the host be extremely respectful to everyone in the arena today. The audience went quiet for the host to speak, and the host graciously introduced the two fighters. The man fifth in rank in the whole arena was 39 times winner, with a 7-10 ratio of win to loss. "Please give a round of applause to Varon," the host shouted. From one side of the arena, a man wearing nothing but pants walked onto the stage. He was bald for the most part and had no facial hair, not even eyebrows. He wordlessly greeted the audience and they cheered him. Next, the host introduced the challenger that needed no introduction. With 100% pro scene win statistics for the last 65 games he had played, this man was the expected winner in today's match. "Please welcome, the one and only, Barry." Before the host's words even finished, the arena was drowned in the maddened voices of the people that cheered for Barry. "Barry, Barry, Barry." The voices called for him before he even walked out. Barry walked out in simple battle attire with loose shirts and trousers to help him move around easily. The moment he walked out, his fabulous green hair surprised many that hadn't seen him before. "Is that fake?" Ning wondered when he saw the hair. "I can't tell," Safra said. "Can't you check?" Ning nodded and did a simple analysis. Turned out he really did have green hair. He checked the other man and saw that he actually a yellow-haired person. However, his bald status didn't reveal anything to the public. They are both rank 5. "This will be an interesting time to see how much hair matters in a fight between two people," Ning said. All of the different fights Ning had taken place in or watched were usually ones where the beasts were summoned. In those situations, the color of your hair didn't matter much. However, when you summon just a beast's abilities and attributes onto yourself, depending on how well your bond is, you could get up to a certain percentage of what you were summoned for the same low spiritual energy. Since a person only needed to upgrade their hair once for it to be permanent and work with any beasts, most tried to improve it early on. However, not many knew exactly how they could do it, so they were left with a low-grade hair. Barry and Varon walked to the center of the arena and climbed onto the massive stage. As they waited for the fight to begin, the crowd started to go wild. The betting house was filled to the brim as everyone wanted to bet on Barry. As such, Varon's price increased so much that even betting something simple as 10 pearls would return in nearly 1,000 pearls. So, those that had money decided to take advantage of the situation and get richer by betting on Varon. After all, he too was an amazing fighter. Still, most just bet on Barry. "Are you ready?" The host spoke to the two fighters, but his words reached the audience. When the two of them nodded in affirmation, the host got back to the edge of the stage and shouted, "Fight!" Without a moment's delay, Varon jumped high into the sky with fire spreading from beneath his feet. He front-flipped over to Barry, and as he did, his feel left an arc of fire that burned its way towards Barry. Barry simply smiled and took a step to the left. Then, he moved his palms and shot out wind that blew away both Varon and the fire. This simple conflict made the crowd go wild. They chanted Barry's name and he relished in the fame. He gave a wide grin to Varon, who gritted his teeth and crouched a bit to get into a sturdier stance. He punched forward, each hit releasing fire towards Barry, but Barry simply dodged it or used his wind powers to spread the fire away. Barry then got on the offensive and started running around in a circle trying to confuse Varon, but Varon stood resolute. Barry shot out a blast of air towards Varon, but Varon too could simply get rid of it using his fire. He used the opportunity to shoot fire directly at Barry in the location he was going to be at next. Barry was stuck in between two attacks, so he was forced to slow down and use his wind power to destroy the fire. However, at the same time, an arched fire slice flew his way from down below, aiming at his legs. Whatever he did, Barry was going to take the hit, so he did what no one would expect him to do in this situation. He flew. He jumped into the sky and hovered there as all three attacks flew off from the stage and hit the walls. Varon looked in surprise. Not in 100 years would he have thought that Barry could fly. Since he wasn't able to, this was going to be a tough battle. With Barry flying, Varon became a sitting target. "I'm sorry my friend, you lose now," Barry said as wind coalesced around his hand. He swung his hand from the sky and it flew toward Varon as a sharp slice. Varon sent out a few balls of fire, but everything was snuffed out by the unstoppable wind as it flew at Varon. "It's over," Barry said as he heard a loud bang from his attack hitting Varon. He wondered if he overdid it and killed Varon, however when he looked down, his eyes narrowed in confusion. Varon stood on the ground with an area around him untouched. Barry wondered what had happened until he saw the dust from the air unable to enter the area around Varon. A barrier. Ning thought when he saw that. "Double summon," someone shouted from the crowd. "What? Huh? Really?" People started getting surprised one by one. Double summon was as simple as it sounded. It was when a person summoned two beasts or their abilities at once. Everyone was capable of doing that. All one had to do was find a beast that was willing to take a fraction of your energy in exchange for it being summoned or just giving away its power. Using the remaining energy, one could do another summoning. So, double summoning wasn't a rare thing at all. Many people did it every day. However, in the context of a battle where every little strength mattered, splitting your energy to summon two weaker beasts was usually considered a really bad idea. "You double summoned?" Barry asked with a serious look. "Against you, I had to," Varon said. "Good," Barry said and started flying around in circles again while Varon shot out fire from his fists. Wind and fire raged on the stage, but none was able to get the upper hand in the fight. "Who do you think is going to win?" Safra asked. "It's hard to tell," Ning said. "As long as Barry can bypass the barrier, he wins. But I'm not sure if he can do that." "I thought so too," Safra said. Suddenly, Varon opened his mouth wide and breathed out a voluptuous amount of fire into the sky, surrounding Barry from every side. Barry put his hand together and made a spreading gesture that made the air around him rip into the fire and split it into two. Just then, Varon flew through the gap in fire, surprising Barry. He reached directly in front of Barry and punched him in the face with a fistful of fire. The crowd went silent in shock. The first successful attack had just landed, and it had been from Varon. The crowd wondered if Barry lost, but Barry slowly rose up from the ground. Varon was already back on the ground and had created a barrier around him to protect himself. "Good, good," Barry said slowly as he felt the burnt skin on his face. "You ruined my good face. You will pay for it." Varon simply smirked and scoffed at Barry. Then, the barrier moved. The barrier split open and shot out forward. Barry was attuned to the wind at the moment, so he felt something approaching and flew into the air. At the same time, he sent out another wind slice towards Varon. The barrier Varon had sent out dissolved into nothing as another one appeared around him. Barry started moving his hand left and right, creating a small storm just on the stage. Dust blew in the wind, giving a relative idea of what the barrier looked like and where it was. This time when it moved to attack, Barry could see exactly where the barrier was. Wind, fire, and barrier moved around the stage as neither got ahead of the other. Varon's fighting style wasn't exhaustive, but Barry's was. He couldn't keep flying indefinitely, and if he came to the ground, he would become easy picking. "Just give up and save your face," Varon said with a grin, making fun of Barry's currently burnt face. "You really think you've won, haven't you?" Barry asked as he returned to grin himself. "It's as if you forgot one of the most fundamental rules of fighting in a match." "Oh, and what is it that I forgot?" Varon asked. "Always act like you have nothing more to give so that the crowd bets against you," Barry said. "That's how you get rich." Varon's grin disappeared as he realized what Barry was saying. "You have something else you've been keeping to yourself?" he asked. Barry's grin never disappeared. Did you really think this was all I had to show to you today? Barry asked. Varon's face lost color. Let me get you in on a secret, Barry said as he suddenly sent out a wind slash and lifted a ton of dust into the air, reducing visibility. Varon put up the barrier to protect himself, but then a voice came from behind him. You're not the only one who double summoned in this fight. A blow rang the side of Varon's head and he quickly lost consciousness. The crowd waited with great anticipation for the dust to disappear. When it did, they saw Barry standing on top of the now unconscious Varon. Woo! The crowd cheered at the same time as Barry lifted his arms in a victorious pose. You're welcome, folks, Barry shouted as the crowd kept cheering for him. Barry had the largest smile on his face until he walked into the waiting room where his smile turned into disdain and hatred. That bastard. He dared ruin this fabulous face of mine. I even lost some of my hair, Barry grumbled. Had it not been for this being a match, I would have killed that fucking bastard. Hey, you. He suddenly pointed to a staff who joked in fear. Yes, Mr. Barry? He asked. Get me a healer and a hairdresser, he said. I have a match with a beauty in 2 days, and I need to look the best I can. 2 days went by and Monday arrived. Ning woke up early and went to the cafeteria to meet up with Safra. Are you ready? He asked. Yes, I'm ready, Safra said. Are you not worried at all? Ning asked. No, Safra said. I will win. Ning smiled. He liked seeing that confidence in her. Besides, he realized there was no reason to be scared. After all, she was one of the finalists in a competition that spanned galaxies. Well, you'll need to be careful still, Ning said. I'm very much sure he double summons as well. I don't see how simply wind alone can bypass the barrier in the last fight. Don't you dare ask your system for the answer, Safra suddenly said. No, I haven't. I promised I won't. Geez, you need to relax a little, Ning said. It's hard to come across a match that I am excited for. I don't want you to ruin the surprises that lie ahead, she said. After the two of them finished eating, they left for the arena. Safra was taken away by some staff while Ning walked to the seats alone. Once he was there, he once again was surprised by just how many people were there. There were just as many people here like last time. Are people that much excited about Safra's fight? Her first match shouldn't garner so much attention, he thought. Of course, Ning understood they were here for Barry, but as far as they knew, this was going to be a short fight. So it didn't make sense for them to have come here for Barry again and in just 2 days at that too. Did you watch the last match? Someone spoke near him. No, I wasn't able to get a ticket, another man said. Me neither. That's why I came so early today, the first man said. I heard Barry barely won the last match, the second man said. No way, he had the fight in the bag, a third person joined in. As Ning heard their talk and the other people's talk, he quickly came to understand why the arena was so full today. These were people that weren't able to see Barry's match last Saturday and had thus bought today's tickets to see him. He's quite the superstar, isn't he? Ning thought. The host came out and started introducing the new fighters. Barry needed no introduction, while Safra had nothing to introduce her by. This was her first match, so she was a blank slate. After seeing the two of them walk out from either side of the arena, Ning walked over to the betting area. High above the betting room, the two contestants' odds were written. Barry had -92 on him, while Safra had 65. This means for every 92 pearls someone bet on Barry, they would get back a single pearl. However, for every pearl they bet on Safra, they would get back 65 pearls. It was obvious who the arena and audience thought was favored in his match. Ning smiled a little, bringing out about 100 pearls to bet. However, before he could bet, the arena went silent. Ning turned around to see that Barry had taken the center stage and was saying something. Forgive me for speaking out of turn, but since you are all betting on this match, I would like to place a bet with this lady too, he said. Safra narrowed her eyes as her mind churned to translate the words. What bet? She spoke. If I win, I would like to make you mine, Barry said. Safra didn't immediately understand what he said, so she didn't show any response. But the crowd understood it and was shocked. After a few seconds, Safra understood it too and her eyes narrowed. What's in it for me? She asked. If you win, I will give up my favorite sweet to you, Barry said. Safra cocked her head as she didn't understand some of those words. Ning quickly translated the words and sent them into her ears. Safandra was surprised to hear him, but she didn't let it be shown on her face. "Isn't the Swede tied to the #1 fighter in the arena?" Safandra asked. "Yes, it is," Barry said. "Then no need. I can get there myself," Safandra said. "Ooh, ambitious, aren't we?" Barry said. "Then tell me, what do you want?" Safandra thought for a moment and said, "If you lose, we fight again tomorrow." Barry's smirk widened. "You are a bit too ambitious, and that will be your downfall, lady," he said. "Very well then. If I win, I get you. If you win, you get me." Safandra smiled back as she understood what he meant. The crowd was praising and booing from all around the arena as the talk of the bet was clearly heard by all of them. Ning turned around to see that the betting odds had surprisingly changed after the bet, as they believed Barry would fight extra hard now. Now, the bets were -100 for Barry and 80 for Safandra. Without any hesitation, Ning brought out 200 pearls and bet them on Safandra. The rest of the people went crazy and bet for Barry as they had come to do. Ning returned back to his seat and waited for the match to start. Once the two contestants had moved to the edge of the seat, the referee moved in between them and got them ready. Safandra took a deep breath as she calmed herself before the fight started. Her powers were of one note, so she had to be extra careful of how much of it she used in every fight. She crouched a little as she got into a fighting position while Barry also got ready. The referee saw that and shouted, "Fight!" The crowd erupted into shouts and cheers as Barry made the first move. He suddenly took off with incredible speed and appeared in front of Safandra. Just then, his right arm changed as blood seeped out from inside and formed a blade around it. Safandra understood easily that he had summoned the powers of a blood beast. Barry wasn't seriously aiming for Safandra with the blood blade at all. So when she dodged it, he wasn't surprised at all. The blood blade liquefied as he used it as a whip to attack Safandra. Even as the whip arrived close to her, Safandra didn't look away and simply put her arms forward. She made sure not to use a lot of power and slightly pushed onto the oncoming whip. The whip turned into drops of blood that fell onto the ground. However, they quickly moved again as they returned back to Barry. "Not bad," he said. Neither of the fighters had lost even the slightest bit of breath, and that made the crowd rile up even more. This time, they weren't just chanting Barry's name, but Safandra's too. "Aren't you going to attack?" Barry asked. Safandra didn't answer. There weren't many attacks she could do given her powers. Her powers were way too straightforward, so she needed to use them in ways that made it look more fascinating. Safandra put her two arms to the side with her palms pointed towards the ground. Then in a single motion, she ripped out two small rocks each the size of a person's head. Once she had them in her hand, she shot one of them at Barry. Barry smiled and immediately made a sword out of the blood and sliced the incoming rock into two. The two halves of the rocks flew past him, but Safandra easily pulled them back. At the same time, she threw her second rock at him. Barry was caught between two attacks, so he realized he couldn't escape from this situation with simple attacks. He sent a blood slice towards the single rock while creating a massive wall of blood behind him. At the same time, the blood solidified into a strong wall that stopped the stones, which shattered onto the ground. Barry looked pale from using so much blood, but he quickly brought all the blood back into his body and was no longer feeling so bad. Safandra pulled more rocks from the ground and started shooting them up into the sky. At the same time, she also flew into the sky and floated there as she waited for the stones to come flying down. Barry realized what she was doing and brought out two blood whips from the palm of his hands. As the rocks came towards him, he moved his hands really fast in order to turn them into dust even as they approached. All the audience saw was a bunch of red blurs followed by a loud explosion that resulted in the rocks turning into dirt. Safandra was out of rocks, but she could get more. She took a deep breath and focused. Underneath her the arena shuddered. The crowd went silent as they felt the vibrations coming from underneath them. They wondered what was happening, but that was quickly answered as they saw the scene on the stage. Everyone, including Ning's eyes, went wide as a massive chunk of the stage was torn out from under Safandra and it floated in the air beneath her. At the same time, Safandra quickly got behind the massive chunk of rock and thrust it back at Barry. The blood whip disappeared from Barry's hand as he watched what was basically a small house made entirely of concrete fall on top of him. "Oh no," he thought as the stage fell on top of him. The loud smashing sound sent waves of fear flying through the crowd's hearts as they watched the massive rock crush Barry. She killed him," one of the men said. "No way, another person said as she couldn't believe her eyes. Good, you survived, Safandra said from up in the sky. You tried to kill me, Barry said. Nonsense, I knew you would have survived, Safandra said. There was a reason why you could enter his barrier the other day, and now I know. Shadow Beast, huh? She asked. Your second summon. Barry's eyes narrowed as he realized he had been made. Nobody had ever found out my secret, he said. I'm not a nobody, she said. Now, let's see how good you are at using the powers of a shadow beast. Before Barry could even prepare, rocks from the debris started shooting at him from behind him. Barry's body turned into a shadow and disappeared from the area before appearing somewhere else. Even then Safandra continued pulling the debris from behind him or pushing onto the ones that were in front of him to attack him. Barry continued dodging and shot out attacks made up of both shadow and blood, but Safandra simply pushed it aside before continuing what she had been doing the entire time. Barry kept dodging and dodging, waiting for a single chance. As the debris kept getting pulled or shot off, the stage started clearing up more and more until there was no longer anything on the stage to use. What? That's it? Barry taunted. I'll show you if that's it or not, Safandra said as she drifted down on the ground. However, the moment she touched the stage, Barry smiled. She had fallen into her trap. Barry needed Shadow to use his Shadow Beast powers to teleport and dodge. Without it, he was a sitting duck. Once the debris was cleared, there was nowhere else to dodge. However, now that Safandra had landed, he had a shadow behind her that he could use. Instantly, a blood blade formed along the side of his hand while at the same time his body turned into a shadow and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was behind the unsuspecting Safandra. Then, he put all of his anger into this one attack as he slashed at her arm. Bang! A centimeter away from her arm, his blood blade stopped and couldn't move any further. Did you really think I don't know the skills of a mere shadow beast that I would come down here just because of your provocation? She asked. Then, she slowly turned around to look at the person that no longer had anywhere to go. I win, she said as she placed her palm on his chest. Barry felt a force hit him all over him as he was sent flying out of the stage and into the audience. The crowd was silent as not a single one could have ever believed that this was going to have happened. Even if they hoped Safandra would win, they didn't expect such a massive victory. The referee managed to put aside his shock for the moment and announced Safandra's victory. Finally, the crowd started making sounds, but most of it was just depressed noises for people who lost all their money today. Since they had to bet 100 pearls just to earn one in today's match, they had put up a fortune in the betting area. Now, that was all gone. The arena was suddenly hundreds of thousands of pearls richer than it was just a minute ago. Ning himself was about 16,000 pearls richer than he was normally. He himself couldn't believe just how much he earned. Ignoring the people shouting shouts of cheating and match fixing, Ning went to the betting area. There's too many pearls here. How will you take it? The people in there asked. Don't worry, I have a skill summoned, Ning said. The people there nodded and gave him his 16,000 pearls. Back in the arena, Barry was brought back to consciousness after having been struck so hard and sent out of bounds. Before Safandra left, she walked by Barry and said, "See you tomorrow." Barry's entire body shuddered as he remembered the bet he had made with her. He was going to have to fight with her once again tomorrow and he didn't know if he could do it. Ning met up with Safandra and told her how much he had made from the bet. 16,000? That's nothing, she said. Look, I make 30,000 by myself. She showed a slip of paper. How will you take the money out? He asked. I don't know. It's going to be difficult, she said. While spiritual pearls weren't big and only around the size of peas, 30,000 was still too many to simply carry around. I'll see if I can make a storage item for you, Ning said. You can? She asked. I'll have to check with my system. Wait, Ning said and started talking with the system. All right, I see I can make it, he said as he brought his hand forward and a ring appeared on top of it. The storage area isn't large, only around a couple of metric cubes, but that should be more than enough to keep the small stuff, Ning said. Wow. Safandra said with genuine amazement. Your system really can do just about anything, can't it? She took the ring and wore it. Then, she frowned. How do I use it? She asked. Use your spiritual energy. That's the only way to use it, Ning said. Safandra frowned even more when she heard that. You know I don't have spiritual energy, she said. Not even the tiniest amount? Ning asked. Safandra shook her head. Although I may have a way, she said and called out Little Blue. The tiny little blue spirit jumped onto her ring and put spiritual energy into it. Then, as if on command, the paper slip in her hand flew into the ring. Good, it works, she said. Ning looked at Little Blue for a bit as she flew back into Safandra's hair and disappeared. Did you know that there aren't that many spirits in this world? He asked. I wouldn't be surprised. Spirits usually only form in places with extreme spiritual energy concentration for a long time, Safandra said. Also, I read that the spirits are supposed to have great intelligence, Ning said. Depends on how long they remain on their place of origin, or how long the concentration of energy lasts, Safandra said. Either way, spirits usually only leave when they gain enough intelligence is what I read, Ning said. So, I don't see why you are bringing this up right now, Safandra said with an irritated voice. I'm just trying to ask why Little Blue can't speak yet, Ning said. I kind of feel like she doesn't have much intelligence. It doesn't matter to you if she had the intelligence or not, right? Safandra asked. Ning frowned when he heard the tone. I feel like I stepped on a nerve here. If so, I'm sorry, he said. Safandra sighed. No, I'm sorry, it's a touchy subject for me, she said. Let's just drop it for now. I want to go get my money. Sure, go ahead, Ning said, then he too left. Since there was nothing to do for the rest of the day, he went around to the summoning circle to do some quests. Unfortunately, there weren't any good rank 5 quests, so he took a rank 4 quest that had him help some fishermen go to the middle of the sea to help them catch some rather rare fish. As soon as Ning accepted the request, he was sent to the dock to help them. The fishermen that he expected to be in small boats were actually using massive ships and had giant nets to catch tons of fish at once. Ning summoned an aquatic beast that the fishes deemed harmless, but was also strong enough to protect the ship from other stronger beasts. Ning didn't have much to do in the middle of the sea, so he just sat around and watched the fishes get hauled overboard. The rare fish the fishermen were searching for was called a silver skyfish. It was apparently so delicious that any noble would pay over 200 pearls just to get a taste of it. A full fish would normally sell at about 3,000 pearls, making this a really successful business for the fishermen. When they finally caught one, the fishermen were so happy that they nearly didn't notice the battle between the two beasts that happened underneath them. Ning's summon was much stronger than the hostile beast, so it easily defeated the attacker and killed it. Then, the fisherman had one more thing to carry back home. It was the next day and Ning arrived at the arena to watch Safandra's battle with Barry once again. This time, the crowd numbered just as greatly as yesterday, but they were also chanting Safandra's name more so than Barry's. The boss of the arena was watching this match too from up in his little viewing area. He hadn't come to watch Barry's fight the other day, but when he learned that he lost, he had to come to watch it this day. Safandra and Barry both appeared on the stage after the host's announcement. "Wanna bet again?" Safandra asked. However, Barry didn't say anything and kept quiet. Safandra looked towards the betting zone and sighed. The odds were still against her, but it was almost nothing compared to the massive amount that was there yesterday. No point in fighting forever then, she thought. Start. The referee started the match. Barry suddenly slammed his feet on the ground as his feet sank into the stone. All around him, massive blocks of rock appeared that basically melted at his touch. As if the rocks refused to accept his presence, his body would simply phase through the stones. That was the power he had summoned today. Since Safandra attacked him with the rocks so much yesterday, he summoned the power that would counter her. He could also control the rocks easily, so he started shooting them at her. Safandra didn't even put up her arm as she stopped the massive chunks of rocks that were flying toward her. With just a thought and a glance, the rocks would stop flying towards her and then get sent back towards Barry. Barry didn't dodge these rocks as he didn't need to. However, Safandra simply shook her head. "I think you forgot what happened yesterday," she said. Before Barry could even realize what she was talking about, he felt a force push upon him, and once again he was sent out of bounds. As easily as dealing with a child, Safandra won her match. The crowd cheered as Barry was no longer the number 1 in the arena. While he kept the title, everyone already started calling Safandra the true number 1. The crowd stayed around for the following matches, but Ning left. There was nothing more to do. For the next 2 days, he simply passed his time just roaming around the city or reading books. When Thursday came around, he finally got a chance to fight. After all, today was the day his match with Hartman would take place. Ning walked onto the stage and saw another person walk out from the other side. The host introduced them, but Ning had no records to be introduced by, so the audience watched him as he was a blank slate. Not as many people, huh? He thought. He didn't think he was going to earn much this time. Wear this. The host brought 2 black blindfolds and had both Ning and Hartman wear them. Ning didn't have to do this before, so he wondered why they were doing this. After he wore the blindfolds, they were both told to summon their beasts. Ning couldn't help but wonder what type of beast he should summon. More so, he couldn't help but wonder what type of beast his opponent would summon. If only he could see. He realized why they were wearing blindfolds and continued with the summoning. I need a beast that is strong both physically and elementally. As long as you come with me, I am willing to give you all my spiritual energy. Ning spoke the words of his bond. The lights that shined all around him got brighter as they came closer to him. Ning smiled when he saw the many lights and reached out his hand for the light that shined the brightest. As he grasped it, the bond was forged and the beast summoned. Ning opened his eyes to look at the summoning circle, but the blindfold wouldn't let him see. By the time he got rid of it, the beast was already summoned. Standing in front of Ning was a yellow-bodied beast that stood on all 4. Its body was the shape of a tiger, however, on its back was a massive armor-like shell. Growing out of that shell were many thorn-like spikes that grew grayish in color at the stem but got purple as they reached the tip. Its tail was spherical at the end with similar, but smaller, thorns growing out of it. The head of the beast also looked like a tiger's, but there were no stripes on its body as a traditional tiger would. The beast growled at the hulking elephant was that summoned in front of it. The elephant was mostly blue in color and Ning quickly realized it was a water-type beast. His own beast was unique in that it didn't any specific element it adhered to, but it did have poison on its spine which would prove fatal to any beast that it struck. Ning wondered if that was a good idea or not. Their ranks are vastly different. He should be able to win without using his spikes, Ning thought. Don't use your spikes at the elephant, okay? Ning said as the match started. The beast roared and dashed forward to attack. Ning panicked a little. Hey, slow down. We need to keep the match going for a bit to earn, he said, but the beast wasn't hearing him. It reached next to the elephant and at the same time, the elephant blew out water from its nose with an impressive force behind it. Even then the elephant wasn't able to stop the beast's progress as it appeared next to the elephant and hit it really hard on the side of its head. The elephant was immediately unsummoned and Ning's victory was announced. Damn it, I told you to wait, didn't I? Ning said, I am never summoning you ever again, now go back. Ning waited for the beast to unsummon. However, it didn't go back at all. Instead, it stared Ning straight in the eye, daring to defy him. The tiger-like beast looked at Ning with a mocking smile. What the hell? I told you to return, Ning said, but the beast acted like it didn't hear him. Fighter, handle your beast, the referee cried out. I'm trying to, Ning shouted. What are you doing? You need to listen to me. Leave, right now. No. A thought came back to Ning through their bond. What? Ning was surprised and confused. Never had he had a beast refuse his orders before. Then, he got angry. Do what I say and go away, Ning commanded. The beast slowly turned its head to look at Ning. You dare command me? You think you are safe just because you summoned me? Ning could see the hostility in its eyes as the spikes on its back started straightening and getting harder. He looked in the direction the spiker was pointed at and realized that if the beast let it loose, it would attack all the audience. Stand down, or I will be forced to. Before Ning could finish his words, the beast suddenly dashed toward him to attack him. Ning took a step back and barely dodged the paws of the beast. The audience gasped in shock when they saw that. The beast landed next to Ning and tried to strike at him with its spiky tail. Anger flared in Ning's eyes and he punched the tail without any hesitation. The beast heard a crack and felt its tail break apart as blood dripped from the wounded tail. It started whimpering like a small beast while the spikes on its back got ready to let loose. Ning then moved next to the beast and took out a spear and hit the beast in the back, cutting through its entire spikes. The force was so strong that the beast too skidded away as it went out of the stage. Did you think you can disobey me? Do I look like a pushover? Ning asked with fury clear in his voice. The beast was spooked. It had never fought a human this strong before. All the strong parts of its body were gone and it would take a long time to regrow the quills it lost today. So, when it saw Ning walk toward it, it decided to leave immediately rather than take more damage. A summoning circle appeared below it as it got ready to get unsummoned. However, Ning wasn't going to let it go just like that. With just a single command to his system, the summoning circle was broken and the beast remained on this side. The beast looked around with a confused look as it couldn't understand at all why it wasn't back in the forest where it lived. Just at that time, Ning arrived in front of it and placed his palm on the beast's head. Suddenly, its mind went blank as a wave of power entered its head, overwhelming its consciousness and will. Supreme domination. The beast's mind collapsed as it only recognized Ning as its master now. Finally, it would listen to his commands. "You thought you could defy me and it wouldn't come back to haunt you, didn't you?" Ning asked. "Well, here's your final command. Leave and never get summoned again." "Yes, master." The beast spoke in its own language and disappeared back to where it had come from. Ning's anger faded once the beast was gone, and only then did he remember that he was still in the midst of the audience. "I'm sorry I couldn't keep my beast in check," Ning said as he apologized and walked away. As soon as he reached the waiting room, Safra was already there running toward him. "What's going on? Are you all right? Did the beast leave?" she asked in a panicked voice. "Yeah, it's fine. I managed to control him in the end," Ning said. "Why did the beast even go rogue? Could you not control it?" she asked. "No, it simply wouldn't listen to anything I had to say," Ning said. "What did you do? Did you not make a proper bond?" she asked. "No, Ning stopped as he thought back to the bond he did make. "I need a beast that is strong both physically and elementally. As long as you come with me, I am willing to give you all my spiritual energy." Those were the words of his bond, and nowhere in those words did he tell the beast that they had to be loyal to him. "Ah, I might have made a mistake in a hurry," Ning said as he finally understood the reason behind the beast's actions. "You didn't make a proper bond?" she asked. "I forgot to put the loyalty part of the bond because I was so focused on finding a strong beast that would come with me," Ning said. "How could you?" Safra said. "Why would you make such a simple mistake? Do you know how much it could have cost you? Do you understand the threat that you could have been under if you weren't stronger than the beast?" "I know," Ning said. "As I said, it was a simple mistake. It won't happen again." "You need to understand what you did wrong and how badly it could have gone," Safra said. "I understand," Ning said while giving a confused look towards her. "Why are you so mad anyway? Everything was fine in the end, and it won't happen again. You need to be careful." "You, sigh, never mind. Yes, it was fine. Just make sure to always be careful with the words of your bond," Safra said. "You sound like you've suffered from a wrongly worded bond before," Ning said. Safra shook her head. "Not me," she said. "Your friend?" Ning asked. She kept quiet and didn't say anything. "Go get your earnings. I made a bit of a profit thanks to you today," she said. "Oh, right. Forgot about that," Ning said and walked away. Safra had a conflicted look on her face for a second before she too followed him and walked away. The boss watched everything that took place in the arena from his spot high in the arena. "Did you see that?" he asked the assistant that stood next to him. "Yes," the girl said. "Not being able to control their own beast is a really bad sign for a fighter. Do you want me to cancel his earnings? Or maybe just kick him out?" "What?" The boss's attention wavered when he heard that. "Why would you do that?" "He put the audience at risk," the assistant said. "That he did," the boss said, "but I was talking about something else." "I don't understand," the assistant said. "Did you see the crowd go wild when he fought his own beast? In fact, I've never even thought of putting a human against a beast before," the boss said as a wide smile appeared on his face. He turned to his assistant to his side and said, "I think we have a new scene for us. Man versus beast." Ning was notified that someone had requested to battle him in a week. Remembering that he too had a chance to challenge now, he decided to challenge someone too. Ning found someone higher up in the beast fight ranking and challenged them. After that, he had a week to himself where he could do anything he wanted. With nothing else to do, Ning went back to the summoning circle to look for some quests to do in the meantime. He looked through the quest board for anything that would catch his interest. However, nothing seemed fun at all. Just as he was thinking that a person came next to him and tapped him on the shoulder. "Yes," Ning said when he noticed that it was one of the clerks working in this place. "Sir, are you looking for some quests?" the person asked. "Yes," Ning said, "but I don't think I like any of the quests in here." Ning looked back at the quest board that was mostly about helping take people somewhere or helping with finding something or some much more mundane activities like gathering some plants and ores for the people. Other than that, there was also the global quest about finding the missing people, but since it didn't originate in this place, Ning didn't bother taking those. "Sir, there is a special quest that has been directly requested of you," the clerk said. "A special quest? What is it?" he asked. The clerk looked around and said, "Let us go to the back room for more privacy." Ning nodded and followed the clerk to the back room where no one was there. "There is a direct quest issued by the royal family of the kingdom themselves," the clerk said. "The Darius family did? How do they even know about me?" Ning asked. "They didn't ask specifically for you, but rather the strongest person in the circle. As far as we know, that is you," the clerk said. "I see. What's the quest?" Ning asked. "Starting immediately, you are to teach the royal princess about summoning," the clerk said. What?" Ning was confused. "Teach her about summoning? Why would I have to teach a princess anything? Doesn't she have a million tutors for that?" "The king apparently wants someone really great at it to teach her," the clerk said. "And I am that person?" Ning asked. The clerk gave a confused look. "Are you not?" he asked. Ning sighed. "Fine, whatever. How long is this task supposed to last? What's my payment?" he asked. "Well," the clerk hesitated, "it's supposed to last until she can summon a rank 2 beast. As for the payment." "Rank 2, huh? Everyone should have that sort of rank already in this world. Just summoning is hard," Ning thought to himself. "I should be able to do that." "Right. What did you say about the payment?" Ning asked the clerk. "The payment is, you get to marry into the royal family," the clerk said. "Sorry, I get to marry into the royal family? What the hell kind of payment is that? Who would I marry? The princess?" Ning asked. I don't think you can marry the princess." "I don't want to marry anyone," Ning said. The clerk flinched a bit at Ning's sudden shout. He quickly turned around and ran to a table before pulling open the drawer to look at a quest. "Actually, if you don't want to marry anyone, then by default your payment will be 5,000 full pearls," the clerk said. Ning's frustration lowered a bit when he heard the number. 5,000, huh? I barely earned 1,000 from my own match the other day. So this is like 5 fights at once. If I can get her to summon immediately, that's an easy 5,000 pearls, Ning thought. Or actually, if I get dull ones, I can easily get 10,000 of those. One couldn't simply keep that many pearls in the ocean as there wouldn't be enough spiritual energy in the water to fill them all up. However, Ning could simply teleport away to the boat and tie the pearls at its feet. Ning didn't need pearls, but somehow knowing that he could earn a lot of them still made him happy. It was like knowing he could earn gave him some worth that he wouldn't have otherwise. "Okay, I will take the job," Ning said. "When do I start?" "Immediately," the clerk said. "Let me set up the paperwork, and then you can go over to the palace." Ning nodded and waited for the clerk to be done. Once he was done, Ning got a letter of introduction that he could show to the palace gates to gain entry. After realizing that there was nothing else left for him to do in the building anymore, Ning walked out of it. Then he turned towards the western side of the island where the royal family lived and walked towards them. In the midday heat, Ning walked past the bustling city until he reached the shore on the other side of the island. Far along the sea, he could see quite a few ships roaming the bay, but none dared to come on close to the shore. Had Ning not known that there was the royal palace on the shore here, he would certainly have been confused why there was an open area in the sea here. The palace looked more like a beach house than a palace. Since it was built on a small cove surrounded by cliffs, it had its own natural barrier of entry. Ning walked up to the gate and showed his letter of introduction. "I'm from the Circle. I'm here because I was requested," he told the guard. The guards quickly relayed the information to the king and Ning was allowed entry. A bare-chested, tanned butler walked out and brought Ning in. Ning was rather surprised at the muscles on the butler. He was more bodybuilder than servant. When he reached inside, he was surprised to see that everyone here was the same. When he reached the palace hall, he realized why that was. The king himself was a barbarian-like man, with a sharp, angular facial structure. His clean-shaven face made him look young, but his physical bearing said otherwise. "You are the person that is going to teach my daughter?" the king asked while flexing his muscle. Yes, that is me," Ning said. "But you're weak," the king said suddenly. "What? Oh, my hair. Don't worry about my hair, your highness. Despite having a red hair, I can assure you that I'm A rank." Not your hair, the king said. Your body. You're so weak and thin. Do they not feed you in the circle? I knew I should have shut that thing down way earlier. They can't even follow simple instructions. But I am strong, Ning said. I'm not looking for people that can summon strong beasts, boy. Any old person can teach that. I'm looking for strong people, physically strong. I want my daughter to learn from people just like me, the king said as he flexed his biceps again. At the same time, everyone in the room flexed their biceps as well. Ning was way too dumbfounded to say anything. Not in a million years would he have expected to be in such a situation. It took him a few seconds to understand what was going on exactly, and when he did, he took a deep breath before speaking. Do you think you are strong just because of a few muscles, Your Highness? Ning asked. Of course I am, the king said. Then how about a match then, Ning said. You and me, we arm wrestle to see who is the strongest. The king gave a confused look. What's an arm wrestle, he asked. Basically, we will use our arms to try and topple each other to see who is stronger physically. Let me show you, Ning said as he called one of the members close by and placed a stool in front of them. Once in a position to arm wrestle, Ning said, try and make my arm fall on this side, while I will try to send yours on this side. HMPH. The court official scoffed at Ning and tried to push his arm aside. However, Ning's arm wouldn't budge even the slightest. Come on, push, Ning said. Use both your hand if you want. The court official tried, but he still couldn't do anything. He's cheating, he shouted. He must have summoned something. Go check, the king ordered. Some of the court officials brought out a few pearls and put them next to Ning. Even during the day, the shine of the pearls was perfectly visible, and not a single light from it moved towards Ning at all. No, Your Highness. He hasn't summoned anything, they said. Oh, that's a neat trick, Ning thought. You can find out if someone is lacking in spiritual energy doing that and figure out if they have summoned something. Ning saw the problem with the technique immediately as well, since one could have summoned something over a day ago and still be lacking in energy. Had Ning been a normal person with no automatic spiritual energy absorption, this would have shown him as having summoned something when in fact he had not. Fortunately, it all worked out perfectly in the end. Once they figured out Ning wasn't summoning anything, they were truly surprised by his strength. Ning then casually pushed on the man's arm and he felt his entire body move along with his arm as he fell to the side. I win, Ning said and turned around to the king. Do you trust that I'm a strong person now, Your Highness? HMPH, I will see myself, the king said as he jumped from his seat directly in front of Ning and placed his hand on the stool. Ning smiled and did the same. He grasped the king's hands tightly and showed him his grin. The king immediately realized he was in trouble. You really are strong, huh? He said as he tried to push on Ning's arms, but as expected he couldn't budge it. What do you eat to get this strong? The king asked. Me? Nothing much really. I just stay out in the sun for a bit and get this strong, Ning said. Is that so? Fine, keep your secrets, the king said and lurched a bit before pushing at Ning's arms. His elbows even lifted from the stool, but Ning said nothing. Do you give up? He asked simply. Not yet, the king said and kept pushing and pushing, but he wasn't even successful as making Ning's clothes move. Finally, Ning took pity on the king and decided not to humiliate him anymore. So, he slowly slammed down the king's arm on the stool and left him there. You lose, Your Highness.